Chase asks Volter, Soul, if he knows who he is. The guy answers boldly. The interlocutor gets angry, correcting the opponent in a rude manner, saying that he is the Dragon King. Having heard such a revelation, our hero cannot believe his ears, asking again in stunned silence. The enemy says that Volter must die for trying to take Chase's woman. The boy begs for mercy, but the Dragon King admits that he doesn't know such a word. Chase grins arrogantly and makes a small effort to kill his opponent, and leaving he says goodbye to the already dead man, to the congratulations of his faithful dogs. But Volter doesn't go to the next world, unable to come to terms with such an outcome. He is not tempted by the fact of losing his precious life due to betrayal. Turning towards the sound, the ghost sees a beauty who has received a message about the villain's death. The blonde immediately activates the transmission of the great villain's highest system. Volter doesn't yet understand what's happening, but he's sure that he doesn't like what's happening. A special connection is created between the dead body and the soul of the boy, raising questions. And the next moment, Volter begins to feel strange, as if he were falling somewhere. Chase's mother-in-law tells her son-in-law to get out, and he retorts that he will handle his wife's affairs himself. While the two bicker, Volter begins to realize that he is very much alive. The first thought is of a rebirth that has taken place in the most incredible way. However, looking at his watch, Volter realizes that he returned half an hour earlier than his death. He looks at the translucent window with bewilderment, where the survival task is listed. The countdown starts, and the guy realizes that in half an hour he will die. The girl sitting next to him speaks up, asking Mr. Black if everything is okay. The Dragon King's wife, Suzette, notices Volter's condition and asks if everything is all right. Seeing such a picture, her husband becomes gloomier than a thundercloud, hissing curses at his rival. Volter pushes the woman away, telling her not to cling to him. Her mother asks the guy not to be angry, believing that this loser does not deserve his anger. She addresses Chase, pointing to Volter's accomplishments and saying that Suzette will marry him. The guy is seriously scared, realizing that after such words he won't be able to live long. Chase says he was the one who organized that $10 billion investment. Suzette steps in, telling her husband to shut up, believing that he is only hiding behind the sagebrush name. The woman says that in this way her husband makes her despise him even more, and she tells Ginger to get out of the family because she doesn't tolerate such useless trash. Chase suggests weighing everything carefully, otherwise you might regret your words. Realizing where this is headed, Volter mentally screams for help, asking to stop this man. Women, however, vied with each other to approach the guy, trying to appease him with their sweet words. Chase, meanwhile, grins, throwing all pretense aside. The Dragon King has 3 subordinates, responsible for power, wealth, and life. Tristan says that the contract will be terminated if the Dragon King is not obeyed. Bartholomew echoes him, notifying that he can deal with 2 families with 1 call. Pete, grabbing his weapon, says that he will kill anyone on the orders of his master, the Dragon King. Clutching his head, Volter refuses to believe that he will die again. He doesn't want to accept the fact that he's just a stepping stone for the show-off protagonist. Chase says he won't accept pleas for mercy, but he can give his enemy a dignified death. Volter says that he had no plans to beg him for mercy anyway. Chase acknowledges the weight of our hero's family, but believes his own is far greater. The guy laughs, saying that he would like to see such a person. The Special Forces commander, Michel, steps forward, ordering his group to arrest everyone immediately. Making a sly face, Volter shows the number he dialed, taunting his opponent. Each of Chase's henchmen is grabbed and ordered not to move, and also to surrender all weapons and behave quietly, after which the woman turns to the Dragon King. Michel informs the guy that he has been arrested and has been wanted for a long time. She adds that those who admit guilt are shown generosity, and vice versa. Chase asks his opponent where his integrity is, calling for military virtue. Michel asks the Dragon King to be quiet, saying that she doesn't care who he is. She turns to Volter with the words that the promised reward will soon be credited to his account, and the guy replies that mutually beneficial cooperation is a great honor for him. Resolving this conflict gives the user pride points, which is the conclusion. Volter doesn't fully understand this system yet, but he's slowly starting to figure it out. He remembers Chase's words about mercy, and decides to prevent bad consequences immediately. The aforementioned man falls to his knees, and Michel, who has misunderstood him, asks the guy to calm down. But the thing is, he suddenly felt like his body had been drained. Volter says he is willing to graciously accept everything the Dragon King has. Meanwhile, the promised reward arrives in his account, and Suzette's mother is delighted with the amount. And she asks the guy to fulfill the promise he made earlier. He says that everything depends on the girl. She talks about her relationship with her ex-husband and about possible future options. Suzette politely asks Mr. Black to save her family. He doesn't mind, but with reservations. He says that first the girl should know his desire, then she becomes interested. The system throws up a task to increase Suzette's disposition level by 110. The level is currently about 100 units, but the girl agrees to an alliance for the sake of the family. Volter asks this out loud. Suzette denies her disgust towards him. The guy asks if this girl really doesn't even know what's going on in her soul. But he is ready to cooperate, giving 10 billion to buy out the Ginger Corporation. Unable to contain her emotions, Suzette's mother cries out, incredulously clarifying what was said. The girl's hatred indicator drops by another 20 units. Wolter says that although it is difficult to accept, this is the only right way out. The system suggests the owner change his strategy, reporting a sharp decline in loyalty levels. But this doesn't scare the guy. He believes that he can communicate with women better than the system. The car heads straight to the villa located on the coast. She brakes sharply with a distinctive piercing sound, and a guy gets out. Volter says that if he had known earlier, he would not have given the servants the day off, because he was close to an accident. Slowly approaching the building, he calls out to Zilla louder and louder. The woman's hand involuntarily trembles, and at that very moment a cut on her finger fills with blood. A girl named Scylla puts her finger in her mouth to stop the bleeding. She comes out to Volter, saying that the water for bathing has not yet been collected, and they are not expecting him yet. This girl's love level is 90, but she's 80% scared. Volter didn't know about the first one. He worriedly asks Scylla what's wrong with her hand. Hiding it, the girl dodges, stuttering as she says that nothing serious happened. An unpleasant memory from a past life involuntarily flashes through Volter's mind, and he suggests that it was that incident that could have frightened this girl. After being resurrected from the dead, the boy begins to look back on the past with mixed feelings. He is irritated by the fact that this image matches the villain's setting so precisely. The boy asks Zilla to prepare a meditation room for him, speaking of his desire. Watching the woman's back, he makes a mental promise to take care of this girl, even though I received this woman as repayment for my debt. While meditating, Volter does not notice the appearance and presence of a stranger. This woman thinks that she made the right choice in choosing the right person. Her attentive gaze falls on the young man's neck, becoming more interested. This piece of jade is a great place to hide from the stray gods. Volter doesn't even have time to suspect something is wrong before finishing his practice. He considers it a really good thing for cleansing and calming the body. Zilla enters the room, offering Volter some ginseng soup. Taking one look at the girl, he begins to talk about the perfection of his body, assuming she wouldn't be able to hold back for long while being around him. But he bursts out laughing, saying he's just kidding, and tasting the soup, he praises it. Scylla offers to let go of the girl that Volter brought last night, fearing. The guy says he doesn't remember her, but now he's sweating, so he's going to take a shower. The girl mentally expresses the hope that this man will no longer do evil. Coming out of the bathroom, Volter tries to remember the one Zilla was talking about. He starts to dry his hair, and suddenly a memory flashes through his mind. The realization hits him completely, and the boy screams, asking a terrible question. Volter heads towards the room from which the sound is coming, becoming increasingly clear. He pulls the curtain almost unconsciously, driven by idle curiosity. The boy holds back the scream that is about to burst out, realizing that Cinna was talking about this girl. He recalls discussing her, commenting on how she seemed like an innocent newcomer. George then said that he would wrap this gift for his friend with him, since he liked the girl. Now Volter regrets what he said, because he didn't think that his friend would fulfill his promise. The guy doesn't understand what sins he committed that earned him such careless friends. Meanwhile, the system sends a task. You need to survive the Soldier King. The guy doesn't quite understand who they're talking about, so he rushes to the CCTV screen. Looking at the monitor, he notes that someone has indeed invaded the territory. And this guy, whom the system identified as the Pride of Heaven, is quite impressive. Even from the first skirmish, one can already draw a conclusion about the abilities of this young man. Volter appeals to the Holy Saints, seeing that this man's fighting qualities are off the charts. Having dealt with the guards, the stranger grabs one of them, directing his gaze into the camera. Volter is becoming increasingly afraid. He believes that this time does not bode well. Without thinking twice, Forrest throws it away, and turning to the owner of the mansion, orders him to get out. When Volter comes out, the guy introduces himself, saying that he is looking for his little sister Lily. He adds that the death of the owner of the house will be painful if he touched this girl. Volter says he doesn't know him, finding Forrest's manner and tone insolent. His own treatment turns out to be unpleasant, and the intruder corrects his opponent. He considers the moment opportune to test his true Nine-Dragon energy. They meet in battle, both prepared to take a blow for their truth. Yet Volter retreats, unable to resist such incredible power. The man from the past wouldn't even be able to resist this man. Forrest praises his opponent, as he did not expect him to be able to withstand his blow. And yet he is too angry that this guy dared to touch his little sister. A familiar voice is heard nearby, asking my brother to stop as he misunderstood. Forrest stops, but doesn't remove his hand, asking what all this means. Volter does it for him, casually shaking off the other man's grip and calling his opponent a bore. Lily tells her brother that Cinna saved her, and that she slept in her bed. Forrest doesn't think this is normal. In such cases, you need to go to the hospital. Cinna dispels doubts and additional questions, because she is a doctor of medical sciences. Forrest can't come to terms with this, saying that there are no decent rich people. Placing the glass on the tabletop, the owner of the house rises, addressing his interlocutor. He believes that he cannot distinguish between good and evil, starting to list the merits of the family. Forrest falls silent, seriously thinking about these words and becoming unbearably embarrassed. The girls are impressed by Volter's ability to choose the right words. Lily tells her brother to apologize to Mr. Black immediately, but he stutters. But still, realizing that he was wrong, Forrest squeezes out words of apology, admitting his mistake. Terribly embarrassed, he grabs his sister's hand to leave, but Volter stops them. He asks in a commanding and displeased tone who allowed them to leave. Forrest is puzzled, but puts on a serious face, asking what's wrong. Volter reminds him of the wounded bodyguards, and his interlocutor promises to pay for their treatment. The guy is very interested in how he is going to do this, given Lily's work. The girl apologizes and says that she did everything to help her brother. Forrest tries to restrain himself, muttering a phrase about the cycle of change. Volter interrupts him, saying that he can change the situation radically. He can not only cancel the compensation fee, but also give Forrest 1 million. To the boy's stunned gaze, Volter offers him to become his bodyguard. Forrest has his own principles, but Lily reminds her brother about her mother's expensive operation. The guy quickly changes, saying that he will overcome himself, since Volter is a good person. Meanwhile, the system notifies about the task completion, listing the received rewards. Volter believes that the combination of the acquired attributes with the dragon energy is invincible. This leads to the assumption that the Heaven's Pride points will be stunning. The brother and sister respectfully thank the guy for such an impressive sum. Forrest's loyalty level is at 20, he still has doubts. But his sister's level is at the stage of worship, causing bewilderment. The system notifies Volter of new tasks, and he feels embarrassed for the naive girl. The residents of the house see the brother and sister off, wishing them a good journey and inviting them to come more often. Volter thanks Cinna for her help, saying that otherwise Forrest would have torn him to pieces. The girl's level of affection drops. She says that this is the last time she did this. Not only does the level of affection decrease, but the status of being in love also disappears. The guy thinks with annoyance that the girl really misunderstood him today. Later, Lily tells her brother to hurry up and take their mother to the hospital and not be late for work. Forrest reminds his sister of the man's bad reputation, but she dismisses it as rumors. One blow and the wall of the house in front of the guy is destroyed. He barely has time to cover himself. Bori notifies the tenants that the deadline to move out has passed, and it is time to demolish the building. Lily notices that they don't want to move, and her brother starts to get angry. Bori has a similar attitude, asking if his interlocutors are not enjoying life. Mrs. Wood comes forward, apologizing for her children and saying that they will now move out. Cursing and kicking the elderly woman, Bori calls the situation bad luck. Forrest asks how this bastard dared to hit his mother. He threatens with prison, and then he says what will happen to his sister and mother. The guy calls for self-control, frantically fearing the consequences. Bori's provocation is responded to, and he, taken by surprise, flies further back than he could. Volter, who arrived in time, said that he could not watch this torment. Seeing him, Lily cannot contain her joyful cry, shouting out an appeal to the rich man. Forrest asks what he is doing here. Voltaire decided to check on his late bodyguard. Bori didn't even understand who hit him, so he jumps up, asking the same question. Volter doesn't even have to answer for the scumbag to recognize him and get scared. Bori introduces himself, asking why the gentleman came to a place like this. Forrest is confused when he hears Ginger's family mentioned. Volter, meanwhile, says he now understands why Bori seems familiar to him, and he asks if this is his key. The man agrees, trying to smooth things over. Lily can't understand why the young master is so friendly with this terrible man. Her brother turns around to say that he already says that they are the same. Volter, meanwhile, says that they can't be their own people with such a bastard. Bori rises to clarify whether his opponent is declaring war on the Gingers. He asks if the other person really thinks this bothers him. Lily's eyes light up with delight when she realizes that Volter is not like that at all. Her brother acknowledges the justice of this man despite his willfulness and pride. The goodwill and loyalty between the two instantly increases. Bori says that in this case, his only option is to ask Ginger's family for help. Lily is worried about Mr. Black because this will bring him a lot of problems. Fair asks the young gentleman if he isn't afraid of getting his hands dirty. Volter grins, wondering if the illegitimate child was really sent to solve the family's problems. He steps forward, asking this scoundrel how he dares to mock him. The next moment, the man is amazed by the impressive speed of his opponent, and his next attack is repelled with the words that they will not allow him to touch their boss. Fair asks if this scum is really going to start a fight with someone like him. And the very next moment their fists collide, revealing to the world the one who is clearly in the lead. And yet Forrest understands that this guy is quite strong. He didn't expect this, believing that there were no real masters in this family. Fair decides to use agility if he can't take the enemy by force. Starting to move in a chaotic manner, the man quickly approaches his opponent. Seeing the ghostly technology, Forrest realizes that he will not be able to find the real body. Then he decides to trust his instincts, closing his eyes and concentrating. Fair, approaching from behind, triumphantly announces that the guy made a mistake. He actually hits his opponent, causing him to involuntarily admire his speed. Yet Forrest believes that this speed is not enough. Fair retreats, swaying from the severity of the damage he has taken. Volter thinks about how these guys are fighting on equal terms, reconsidering his attitude towards the bastard. The system sends a task to eliminate this person, who turns out to be a murderer. The boy thinks about strategy, analyzing the abilities of the illegitimate child. A crazy question arises in his head. Who will get his betrothed? In the confusion, Bori decides to take advantage of the moment, but does not go unnoticed. This is because after the transformation, all of Volter's senses were heightened. The guy turns around, grinning to himself and considering this a great opportunity as well. At the very last moment, Bori screams that disobedience has doomed them all to death. Volter takes off, rushing towards the girl and warning her of the danger. He manages to arrive on time, and Lily is moved to tears by this guy's dedication. Forrest asks if everything is okay, but Fair advises him not to get distracted during the fight. Volter replies that everything is fine. It's just his turn to scratch his fists. Bori rushes at his opponent, saying that he has no other choice. Because his master has already entered the battle, the man is in for a disappointment. Volter slaps Bori across the face, telling him to shut up immediately. Lily's eyes reflect delight as she notes the boy's incredible strength. Volter notices that despite the lack of skill, the power has increased. Lily asks worriedly if everything is okay, and the guy answers her in the affirmative, thanking her. The girl suggests calling her by her first name, and Volter likes this development. He bravados about his nobility and ridding the town of the gingers. The girl's favor increases, reaching the level of love and confusing her thoughts. Volter notes that the opponents are holding up well, but at this rate they will suffer greatly. The sound of a car grows louder and soon approaches and stops, braking sharply. A blonde man gets out of the transport, asking Farah to stop, since they are his own people. He says that there was a misunderstanding and suggests that everything be cleared up in a civilized conversation. Noticing Lily, the blonde asks Volter if she is from the nightclub by any chance. He asks to speak to the point, and the interlocutor says that the lower-ranking officials acted recklessly. This is due to their ignorance, so the family is offering compensation. Volter gives Lily the right to choose. She is surprised, not having expected such a thing even in her thoughts. The girl wonders whether the losses will be compensated only to her family or to everyone. The first option turns out to be correct, because otherwise hundreds of millions would be required. The girl politely refuses, which leaves her opponent stunned. He asks her not to be impudent and to name a higher amount if this is the case. Lily becomes embarrassed and flushes, saying that's not what she meant. Volter makes a suggestion, noting that it will not be possible to reach an agreement. And turning over the table, he orders the failed parliamentarians to get lost. The blonde man can't believe that his friend turned his back on him because of a woman. Volter finally dispels his doubts, confirming that everything is so. The blonde then asks not to blame him later for what he is about to do now. Pointing a finger at Lily, the man tells her that their meeting with Volter was not accidental, and the guy laid eyes on her, asking her to send the girl to his bed. Volter feels like he's struck by electricity when he hears such a brazen revelation. The blonde man, pleased with himself, leaves, and Lily speaks up, asking the person standing next to him a question. She asks if it's true, and the guy is at a loss, not knowing how best to answer this. Lily asks again, pronouncing her question more confidently. The guy thinks that if he doesn't dodge the slap, the girl will fall in love with him very quickly. And with an unwavering look, he decides to take this step, confirming the truth of what was said. Lily actually hits the guy in the face, calling him shameless. Volter in his mind already begins the countdown, giving his vote. He begins to compliment the girl, using seduction techniques. At the end, the guy says that he shouldn't have gone to that club and met Lily there. This would not have caused a quarrel with his best friend. He would not have gotten involved in this matter. If loving someone is considered shameless, then he must be completely shameless. The necklace on the guy's neck flashes, and the girl rushes towards him with words of apology. The degree of location reaches 90 just as time runs out. Someone approaches the couple and asks if Ginger's family has left. Lily runs away, saying she has things to do at school, and her brother doesn't understand the reason for the embarrassment. Volter is surprised that she is still in school, but it turns out that she is doing an internship. He asks Forrest if their mother was accommodated well, and he confirms this with thanks. Volter asks his subordinate for his opinion on what happened today. He is very curious as to why Fair attacked him so recklessly, since he is calculating. Forrest shares his confusion, suggesting that the boss is being provoked. Volter ponders this, finding the reason very plausible. Hearing his boss's reasoning, Forrest begins to respect him, and his loyalty grows. Volter inquires about his subordinate's chances of winning the battle with Far. He analyzes the battle, and the boss talks about the enemy using throwing knives. The best way out against something like this is a pistol. Forrest thinks about the difficulties of acquiring one. Volter dispels his doubts by saying that he will take on this part. The man reminisces, remembering that they did this when they were children. Fair suggests that Bori had a hard time with the gingers, but he counters. The man recalls how hard it was for his mother in those days. She was pecked from all sides. Fair is burning with a plan to take the old man out of the game with his own hands. Bori asks the young master not to worry, promising to avoid him in the future. Fair asks him if he found the leads he was asked for. He steps aside, wondering where the person occupying his thoughts is. The person the man is mentally addressing is Zilla. At this moment she greets her master, getting ready to help him change his shoes. The girl talks about an invitation to a banquet from the gingers, and Volter offers to go with him. He recalls that their contract expires in about 2 weeks, promising to fulfill the terms. The man thanks Zilla for taking care of him. He will really free her. The girl bursts into tears, accurately naming how many days, hours, and minutes are left. She still goes with him to the banquet, where they are greeted and complimented as a beautiful couple. Embarrassed by the fact that she is considered Volter's bride, the girl herself begins to speak nonsense. The guy clarifies, asking if she doesn't like it, but Zilla denies it. She mentally scolds herself, including for thinking about such things, although she will soon leave. Someone approaches their couple and, in accordance with etiquette, calls out to young Mr. Black. The blonde guy says that he considers his former friend's behavior to be too mean. He boasts about being chosen as Suzette's husband and the ginger heir. The woman tells Volter that her corporation can rise without his merits. He leaves, expressing his opinion as he leaves that they will soon start begging him for help. Suzette, calling her opponent self-confident, says that she will never bow to him. A gong is struck to attract general attention, accompanied by the words indicating the beginning. The first thing the head of the ginger's larvae does is thank everyone for coming to the banquet. He says that due to his age, he must hand over his position to his son. To everyone's surprise, it turns out to be his illegitimate son, Faye. The man who expected to be appointed heir even cries out in amazement. Suzette and the others are also confused, believing that George will be the heir. The blonde guy starts yelling, challenging the boss's will with less than adequate words. He publicly asks how his interlocutor dares to hand over the position to an illegitimate son. George is about to rush at Larvae with his fists, but he is beaten to it and does not allow it. Fair advises his brother not to be impudent, at least because today is the head's birthday. Volter smirks, calling the man a wimp and enjoying the spectacle that unfolds. Zilla noticeably turns pale, causing her cavalier to question her when she mentions Farah's name. Volter receives a task that requires him to win over his companion. Understanding how things are, the guy doesn't understand one thing: who cheated on whom. A woman runs up to Far, who is about to hit his opponent, screaming for him to let go. By calling him a worm, she receives the response that they are the worms here. The guests consider the illegitimate son's attack on the eldest to be too brazen. Volter understands what is going on. There is someone influential behind this man. From somewhere to the side, a voice is heard commanding someone to kneel. People can't understand why the Black's butler, Jour, arrived tied up. Fair says his mother's sudden death was caused by poisoning. This was due to the fact that the deceased found out about the affair between these two. But that's not all. There is a secret hidden in the birth of the eldest son, George. In fact, he is the illegitimate son of the headman's wife and the butler. Volter is amazed by what is happening in this family. He has only seen such dramas in the movies. George refuses to believe what he heard, saying that he is the legitimate eldest son. Then Fair presents evidence, suggesting they take a paternity test. The man cannot believe what he sees. The conclusion is indeed negative. He begins to lament, asking the heavens why all this happened to him. Suzette realizes that it's all over now, assuming that Volter had foreseen this. The head of the Gingers banishes George from the family, stripping him of his last name. The man asks him not to do this, appealing to the years he spent raising him. Fair intervenes in the conversation, asking whether he should help his brother or whether he will leave on his own. George asks for help, but no one is going to interfere in this murky matter. The man looks at the last one who has not expressed his opinion. Volter, once his best friend, expresses his dissatisfaction with his bad luck. George hurries towards him with hope in his eyes and, falling on his knees, addresses him, saying that only he can save him now, being the last ray of light. Volter reminds his interlocutor of the words he himself recently said. Even Suzette, who was standing nearby, changed her expression at the realization of such a serious mistake. George says that he was wrong and now he will not dare to go against his beloved friend. He even promises him a project to reconstruct the old city if successful. Volter knows his worth, asking for the Ginger City Central Hospital in addition. George calls his interlocutor a villain, and the other remarks that he has no other choice. And this is indeed true, so after a short pause the blonde guy agrees. Approaching Fair with a standing ovation, the guy says that his performance was magnificent. The man advises Black to stay away from all this, because they are not enemies. Volter says he can't sit idly by while his friend is in trouble. Fair suggests that his interlocutor think about this carefully, because they are adults. The opponent agrees with the statement that they are responsible for their actions. Waving the sheet of paper with the expert's report, Volter says that it is fake. Fair asks him to stop talking nonsense, because the document is certified by the most authoritative university. Volter asks a clarifying question, saying that he will refute it right now. He asks Dean East whether this conclusion is true or not. Doodler East is puzzled, not understanding the man's intentions, but he doesn't like what's happening. Volter helps him make up his mind by reminding him that his son works for his family. The guy promises to take care of him, and the man now understands where this is all heading. The Doodler shouts for all to hear that this conclusion is indeed a fake. Fair notes that despite his opponent's efforts, Jor has already said what is necessary, and the butler is forced to repeat what he said earlier, and he obeys. Volter tells him to shut up, because the eldest daughter of the pristine family cannot stoop to such a thing. The guy says that such infidelity and dishonor are not appropriate for a serving person. Volter notes that reputation lives even after the death of the one who acquired it, and only a real man can boast of such an act. It dawns on Jura, and he starts screaming about how Fair forced him to set up the owner and George. The man jumps up, saying that he is ready even to die to prove his innocence. And to the astonished gaze of those present, the butler crashes into a column. Fair is amazed by Volter's adaptation, who took control of the situation with enviable skill. He can't help but admire this, considering it worthy of the man who destroyed the Dragon King. Meanwhile, Volter washes his hands of the matter, leaving everything to the hero of the occasion. Fair curses him silently, especially hurt by the fact that this guy set him up. The old man orders that he be thrown out of the family, saying that he no longer has a son. He only smiles sadly, fighting back against the guards who tried to tie him up. Before anyone can do anything, the man rushes straight to his stepmother. He says that he doesn't care about all these squabbles over the inheritance. He came back only for one thing. Finishing his words by saying that he came back for revenge, Fair clenches his fingers tighter. The fragile woman's neck can't withstand the pressure, breaking, and George screams in grief. The first voices of condemnation begin to be heard in the area, and Volter insincerely expresses regret. As George cries out that he cannot die, Larvae gives up the ghost. Fair finds the old man incredibly pathetic for being scared to death. He goes to the one who stopped him, and Volter calls his opponent a hypocrite. Fair rushes at the enemy with the desire to kill him as quickly as possible, about to use his skill to send him to the next world, but he hesitates. Zilla, who had rushed forward, said that she would not allow this man to be harmed. Bori runs into the room, notifying his boss about the arrival of the Special Forces Manny. In a hurry to escape, Fair throws out a parting word to Volter that he will certainly find him. The guy, looking at his companion, believes that the issue is not about him at all. George, who has lost his parents, is going to catch the killer by cutting him into pieces, but he collapses from helplessness, and Volter calms him down, reminding him of his business. George lunges at his friend, telling him he's the best, but his friend fights him back. Volter says that he won't leave him because they've been friends since infancy, and the blonde thanks him. And then the guy asks George not to forget to fulfill the promises he made to him. The blonde guy turns to Suzette and says that their agreement is cancelled, and she understands. George recommends that the woman listen to Volter, because he always gets his way, and now he really wants to get this particular woman, but she freezes in indecision. She can't stand it, believing that Volter set it all up and asking about her guilty conscience. The guy smiles. He is amused by this woman's words. He repeats them after her, and she clarifies whether she really thinks that those present did not know this truth. The Pristines are so powerful that if they were to be disgraced, they would repay tenfold. All Volter did was help bring everything to a logical conclusion. Suzette disagrees with her interlocutor, vehemently arguing that Larvae would not have acted in such a way. Then Voltaire asks who a woman would choose to be the head of the family. Its position is rapidly changing, and it is now down by only 20 units. Suzette obediently answers who she would choose, mentally admiring her interlocutor. She considers him a real devil, because he knows much more than the average person. Volter asks Scylla to go ahead, intending to discuss something with Forrest. The guy doesn't understand what happened to his daughter-in-law, because she was kind of absent-minded the whole way. Volter dismisses this as a purely feminine issue, but he can guess the reason in his mind. He asks Forresta not to think about it, and to look at what he has for his subordinate. The guy is amazed at what he sees and asks where the owner managed to get it, but he laughs it off. Forrest is familiar with this pistol. It brings back memories of the army, He regrets that he doesn't have a permit to carry a weapon. He would like to show off his marksmanship, but the caring gentleman took care of everything, showing the bodyguard his license. Volter was helped by his grandfather. Upon hearing about his grandson's oppression, Forrest was amazed by the old man's gullibility. The measured conversation is interrupted by a shrill voice expressing active resistance. Volter knows its owner very well, telling Forrest that it is Zilla. He grabs the gun, and with just one jump finds himself where he needs to be. While examining the room, Forrest simultaneously asks the girl about what happened. She replies that everything is fine, and the guy says that they heard noise from downstairs. Zilla expresses relief that everything is fine after all. She thinks that the cockroaches need to be exterminated, and the guy is puzzled. Volter, who entered the room, asks why the cigarette ashes are not in the ashtray. He believes that he could not allow this to happen. Scylla says that he is hurting her. The guy notices that the cigarette ash collects differently, and Scylla suggests it's because of the wind. Volter nudges her, asking how she will explain the sea sand then. After all, such a thing can only come from one place. Something like it can only be found on the beach. The guy is more of a statement than a question about the fact that a childhood friend came to see her. Scylla says that everything is not as it seems, asking not to jump to conclusions. The guy is angry at the fact that strangers are so brazenly entering his house. He addresses his invisible interlocutors, asking if they really want to die. A strong hand grabs Bori, causing Far to cry out as he calls his accomplice by name. The man peers at the body lying on the floor, trying to find signs of life in it. Unable to find them, Fair jumps from the chandelier with a heart-rending scream and a name on her lips. The system sends notifications and recommendations for the owner to flee as quickly as possible. Fair rushes at the enemy, promising that he will pay for what he has done with his own life. The guy says he's not impressed by the threat, expressing confidence that he can handle it in no time. He comments on his actions, telling how his body's defenses work. Fair rushes at the survivor with a new move, offering to try it, and he strikes the enemy with a bloody strike with 36 daggers. Volter clears his throat and says he expected nothing less from the noble hero. Fair expresses surprise that his opponent forced him to use his trump cards. However, this is nothing compared to what he did to his brother and Zilla. The aforementioned one stands up to defend her master, asking her childhood friend not to carry out his plan. She says that she does not hate Volter. On the contrary, she is grateful to him for the opportunity to live. Everything falls into place, but Fair doesn't want to believe that the girl is in love with a scumbag. He is incredibly angry, accusing Scylla of cheating on him. The girl screams, saying that she doesn't know what's wrong with her, but she wants Volter to stay alive. Zilla justifies herself to her master, saying that she considers Farah only a brother. The man bursts into a humorless laugh, turning the girl's words into a question. And then Fair declares that he hates Volter for stealing his woman from him. The man leans forward, making a pass and saying that today the opponent will definitely die. The gesture becomes a throw of a sharp blade, and Volter begins to wonder where Forrest is. He responds very close, simultaneously firing a shot. He manages to deflect the dagger that is rapidly approaching his master. Bursting into curses, the guy says that he loves his daughter-in-law, and he fires a whole series of shots, trying to catch up with the lightning-fast-moving Fair. He tries to lure the guy to his side by pressing on the status of his current employer. After recharging, Forrest notices that Fair is the one acting like a villain. He also says that he is ready to kill him too, since he is helping such a scoundrel as Volter. Forrest says he's capable of anything when he has a gun in his hands. Fair is going to see how the guy can continue to fight off throwing knives. It is unclear whether Forrest is against him or not, but he continues to shoot back at the enemy. Eventually, he manages to deflect every projectile thrown by Fair. Despite his annoyance, the man cannot help but notice the divine accuracy of this man. Forrest thanks his opponent for the compliment, suddenly appearing very close. He asks his boss what they should do with him. Fair answers for him, ready for anything. Zilla intervenes in the conversation, begging her master not to kill the man. Volter asks to give him even the slightest reason to let this freak go. The girl is found very quickly, agreeing to serve him for the rest of her life. The guy grins coldly and throws her away, saying that there is no harm in dreaming. He tells her to clean up with Fair since she can't forget him. The girl doesn't like this arrangement, but the man drags her along, hurrying her. As he leaves, he thinks that Volter will certainly regret his decision. The task is not completed completely, so rewards are only given partially. Volter takes the reward, believing that new skills never hurt. In this way, he obtains 36 Blood Lotus flying daggers. Fair drops to one knee, suddenly feeling like he's forgotten something incredibly important. Zilla, who had remained silent until then, tells the man to go alone. He clarifies whether the girl really fell in love with this rich kid. Saying that he is not a rich kid, Scylla explains that Volter saved her at a desperate moment in her life. She involuntarily recalls the day when they wanted to rape her, and then they miraculously saved them, scattering these giants in different directions. Volter then became the epitome of a savior in her eyes. with only a halo not shining above his head. Now the girl asks Far where he was then, and he gets lost. The man apologizes for not being able to protect his beloved that day. As he leaves, he promises to return and take his woman back fairly, making up for lost time. But the girl is just thinking that it will be impossible to make up for this. Volter appears behind her suddenly, but Cinna feels his presence clearly. She turns to him to justify herself, but the guy interrupts her. He tells the girl to go with him, since she has no intention of leaving with Fair. Zilla thinks that she is ready to do whatever this man asks of her. Seeing what Volter is doing, the girl cannot believe that everything is happening before her eyes. She is embarrassed by the mere thought that this is her punishment. And although Zilla is against the guy seeing her from her worst side, she obediently drinks what is offered. The degree of location reaches the mark of 95 units. At the same time, Zilla is trying to understand why she started feeling dizzy. Volter can't believe he was just 3 points short of completing the task. While covering the girl, he mentally addresses the girl, asking her not to worry about anything. The guy tells Forrest to follow him, and he thinks that his master really is a villain. Standing on the pier, Fair tells this city that she is not leaving it completely. Soon a boat sails up to him, causing mixed feelings inside him. The man soon understands what this is all about when he sees Volter Black. Fair reminds him of his promise to let him go. But his opponent is on a different wavelength. He assures his victim that Zilla will never know who the killer was. Volter easily dodges the attack, suggesting the man aim better. Forrest wonders why this excellent technique didn't work this time. Volter notes that the 9 Dragons' true energy is perfect for the flying daggers. Looking at his opponent, the guy grins, asking him if he recognizes this technique. The man replies that the technique seems familiar, but he cannot remember it completely. The guy doesn't hesitate and uses his new technique, which covers the sky. Later, Forrest asks where the master learned the 36 Blood Lotus daggers. They tell him that they only learned it recently, and the guy puts on a skeptical expression. However, he mentally considers his boss to be incredibly cool, and his loyalty increases to 80. The system gives 1 point of pride of heaven, making Volter think about his stinginess. He recalls seeing a beautiful woman, assuming that she was the system, and the guy believes that now is the best time to start developing system capabilities. He gives praise to the spirits, wishing to see the system with his own eyes for his further training. The guy starts giving her compliments, saying he can't stop thinking about it. He asks the system to reveal itself, to be merciful, to satisfy his thoughts. The beautiful woman does indeed appear, agreeing to make an exception for her king. Volter can do nothing more intelligible than to remark on her beauty. The system says that the guy met her expectations with his arousal. She is satisfied. Volter becomes serious, saying that he has a request to make of Lady System. He respectfully asks to reveal the hidden powers of the great villainy. The woman asks if this guy is taking on too much, and he begins to explain to him that this function should develop gradually. Taking the pendant off his neck, the guy asks if this is the refuge of the system woman. She asks what he is going to do, and at that very moment he shows it to her. The guy notes that even nuclear radiation won't penetrate this box. She won't be able to get out. The woman begins to lose her composure, asking what this bastard is doing, and he shares that he made this box to order. Light cannot pass through it. The woman is not going to take everything on faith, rushing forward to check. Hitting her forehead painfully against the wall, she jumps back, asking a characteristic question. She begins to chant a spell, calling on the 3 sacred mountains for help. But the guy takes a heavy step, suggesting that the system not waste its energy in vain. After all, especially for her, he poured liquid steel underground, and in the walls as well. Volter advises the woman to be obedient and reveal everything that is asked of her. The system begins to get angry, asking how dare he treat her like this. She promises to make the owner pay dearly for such treatment. Volter likes this invisibility technique. There is something to this system. The woman approaches the guy from behind without saying a word, but mentally sending him to hell. And although the impact is clearly felt, something happens that the system does not like. Volter is convinced that he is right. Systems cannot attack their owners until the mission fails, he shouts, asking if she really thought she could solve everything with just invisibility. The guy is going to start acting badly, since the system doesn't want to act goodly. When the system reaches 0, everything in the black box will be frozen, even the light. The woman's neck seems too soft to Volter, and he decides to check just in case. The confused system screams, calling the owner a bastard and saying that it hurts. The guy apologizes, saying that he was mistaken because the woman was invisible. In the torture chamber of the river house, a man's voice is heard addressing a woman. He asks her if it is really necessary to create all these difficulties. Volter asks the system to tell him what exactly this great villainy wants from him. The system says the guy is the reincarnation of Emperor Dean Infinity. The system introduces itself as Diana, and her mission is to help restore the throne to Volter. With the help of the great evil, the guy must destroy all the proud sons of heaven. Volter says that this beautiful face is too tempting. Diana is at a loss. And then he says that the guy is worse than any villain, since he wants to sleep with the system. And she agrees to open all hidden functions for the owner right now. Volter ponders only one incomprehensible point: the meaning of reputation. Diana suggests that reputation points can be exchanged for items in the store. There are two ways to get points: to make people worship you or to make them fear you. The guy asks the system to show the products that are in the store, and it obediently does so. Having considered everything carefully, he concludes that each of the things is good in its own way. Volter politely apologizes to the system, expressing hope for further favorable cooperation. But the woman doesn't like this arrangement. She calls her master a bastard. Volter allows this treatment if it will make Diana feel better. The system experiences several feelings at once, including resentment, indignation, regret, and shame. Returning to the pendant, Dinah says that she doesn't want to deal with such a terrible womanizer. The guy smirks, attributing this behavior to a construct inherent in women. Later, when he is asked what to do if he breaks an antique, he suggests simply paying. But the next moment, Volter's face changes, asking Lily to tell him where she is. The store owner, Bin, yells at his subordinate for this, furiously accusing her of clumsiness and narrow-mindedness. Lily says that she didn't touch the cup because the man himself let it go. Grabbing the girl by the hair, Bin is indignant that the girl dares to argue with him. Holding her tightly, the man raises his hand to strike, threatening to beat Lily to death. Volter arrives just in time, telling Bean to stop and noticing that he is being unusually bold. The shop owner asks who he is and how dare he interfere in the shop's affairs. Forrest rushes to the rescue, intending to beat this bastard to death, but he is stopped. Volter asks Lily to tell him what happened here in all the details. The girl begins a story according to which the shop owner gave her a cup to study. He held her with one hand, and Lily expressed concern about it. The lustful man touched the girl's hand, flirting, and she suddenly jumped back. Bin didn't like being rejected, and at that moment a plan formed in his head. Under the naive girl's shocked gaze, the man unclenched his fingers and allowed the cup to fall. Lily believes it was an accident, but Bean blames her for the incident. Volter considers such behavior arrogant, but anticipates the triumph of justice. All of this is filmed by a girl named Sally, who is a streamer and comments on it. The system informs Volter that he has received the favor of one of the viewers, increasing his popularity. The guy thinks that live broadcasting is a good option, as it can quickly gain popularity. Addressing the store owner, he offers to identify the culprit by using video surveillance. He has everything under control and says that unfortunately the camera is broken. Volter notices a man standing nearby and asks him to come closer. He denies it, asking not to be touched and saying that he saw nothing. Volter takes advantage of the greed by promising to give the money back if the witness tells the truth. The shop owner quickly addresses the boy, asking him to choose his words carefully. The money keeps increasing, and Volter says he will give it to someone else if he doesn't tell the truth. Forrest suggests settling the matter by force, but his boss suggests he wait a little longer. It turns out he's right. The boy gives away the shop owner, backing up his words with a video recording. Bin did indeed break the cup himself, but he didn't do it on purpose, because the thing was expensive. Not knowing what to do about it, the man decided to blame the new girl for his own mistake. Volter reminds Forrest of his recent impulsiveness, allowing him to deal with it now. The bodyguard doesn't need a repeat invitation, but his boss suggests smashing everything. The action takes place amid the indignant cries of the shop owner, tearing his hair out. Bean turns to Lily, telling her to tell Volter to stop, or she will be dead. They roughly grab him by the arm, outraged that the man wanted to harm the girl. Such impudence touches Volter to the depths of his soul, and he says that there is no need for a hand. His words are not just a threat, and Bin's bones break at that very moment. Lily's level of affection increases as she thinks about Volter's beauty and strength. The guy's reputation points are growing at an incredible rate, and he is amazed by their abundance. The streamer is also amazed by the growth of her audience, since she wasn't very popular before. At the same time, she is tormented by thoughts about whether to report Volter to the police for self-harm. The shop owner threatens, saying that the shop is owned by the White family. Volter hits a man on the leg, offering to demonstrate the reprisal. Bean swears. A new voice comes into the room, asking who dared to cause trouble in her store. Lily asks her defender to leave, because Chairman White has enormous influence. She says that she will deal with her problems herself, not wanting Volter to get hurt. The guy chuckles, asking how Julia could have gotten past her old man before he died. The woman is amazed that Volter is still alive, saying that she considers it unfair. The guy rushes to her and says that he missed her, to which Julia playfully brushes it off. Bean now knows who Volter really is, and believes the time of reckoning has come. Watching the two, Lily becomes puzzled, finding their relationship unusual. Meanwhile, the woman, sitting down, asks her friend to tell her what exactly happened. Volter confirms what is in the video, demanding that this situation be dealt with fairly. He's not going to ignore this because his man was hurt, Julia understands. Rising from her seat, the woman tells the employee to take the money and leave. He no longer has a place in the antiques business because he sold his owner. The boy starts to apologize, but his interlocutor tells him never to do that again. After all, it is his own choice, as is Bina's, to whom she immediately turns. Julia says she was going to train him and make him the Ginger's general manager. However, the man decided to neglect the opportunity presented to him. He apologizes. Julia hits him, asking what's wrong with him, why he decided to plot intrigues in the store. She orders the hands that couldn't even hold the cup to be cut off. The woman's guards draw their knives almost in sync, with enough movement to carry out the action. Julia turns to Volter, asking if he will be satisfied with this decision. The guy asks Lily the same question, and she stutters and answers satisfactorily. The audience discusses Volter's identity. He is interested in who he is. And interested, they begin to send donations and gifts to the stream organizer. The live broadcast is blocked due to scenes of violence, and the girl complains about the dog-like administrator. Volter notices that the reputation value stops growing, considering the stream to be over. Diana wonders why the importance of reputation has grown so quickly. Volter, turning to Julia, puts forward a guess about the value of the broken cup. She confirms that the item was indeed expensive, and the guy offers to help the woman. Julia says that if he can really help her, she will give him the store. Lily is puzzled by such a generous reward, because this antique shop is huge. Forrest doesn't understand why his boss is helping people whose store they themselves destroyed. Volter asks his interlocutor whether the hostess blamed them for their ugly behavior. He answers himself, reminding them of the satisfaction of their interests. Forrest thinks about it. With the acquired reputation points, Volter buys an elixir of restoration. According to the instructions, it can restore broken parts of an object when put back together. Julia is puzzled by this guy's actions, because people are not idiots to buy into it. But Volter is confident in himself. And literally a moment later, the whole thing appears in his hands. The woman and Lily cannot believe what they see. They think the guy is a wizard. Meanwhile, the door opens and someone who wants to pick up the pawned items comes inside. Thomas asks the owner why the store is in such a big mess. Julia replies that there was a small misunderstanding that has already been sorted out. The young man says he was only concerned about the safety of the cup he had pawned. Under Julia's intense gaze, he speaks of the fear of becoming like the other products. Volter, noticing Michelle, tries to understand why the Special Forces commander is here. The woman in turn is puzzled by the unexpected meeting. It is not in her interest to be exposed. Meanwhile, Julia reassures the client by demonstrating the integrity of the pawned bowl. The man can't believe his eyes, because the object really is intact. Michelle whispers to his companion to ask if he ruined the bowl, and he answers. He says that now it is definitely a fake and corrects the companion in the name of the item. The man accuses Julia of deception and asks how she dared to sell him a fake. After this, Thomas makes a detailed comparison with the original of the ancient dynasty. Lily thinks that she partially agrees with this person. It's hard to believe. Volter realizes that he made a mistake in choosing such a high-quality elixir. Thomas reminds that now the store owner must compensate him for the cost. He offers her to give the store as payment for the debt instead of money. Julia reflects on this, thinking that after the pogrom, only the land is valuable here. She believes that she doesn't really have a choice, because she wanted to give the store to Volter. Meanwhile, the guy confirms that this cup is actually a fake. Thomas demands that the store be returned to him immediately, since they themselves admitted to the counterfeiting. Volter says he meant something a little different, that they did not forge this cup. He is asked to explain, and the guy accuses his opponent of having forged the item. Thomas tells his interlocutor to watch his words. Otherwise, he will have to settle this matter in court. They begin to discuss the location of the cups they found together, justifying themselves. Volter tells you to go to the back garden and get a bowl for feeding the cats. Thomas is outraged by these words, believing that he is being blatantly deceived. Sally, meanwhile, comments on what is happening for her viewers. While waiting, the girl brightens up the time by reading the comments and announces Forrest's return. He is indeed already very close, informing those present about what he has brought. Volter asks not to pay attention to the dirt, saying that the cup was given to him by his father. Lily begins a thorough examination, commenting on what she sees. Unable to bear the weight any longer, Thomas pushes the girl away, wanting to see for himself. He activates the red gold eyes to make sure he is right. Thomas is mentally amazed, unable to believe that Volter's words were true. He reaches for the pawned item, intending to take it back. There are only a few millimeters left before contact when the cup is smashed to pieces. Volter grins, reminding his interlocutor of the rules according to which a fake is destroyed. Thomas nervously says that he doesn't care, and politely says goodbye to everyone present. Passing by Volter, Michelle informs him that he has harmed an important matter. The guy thinks about these words, trying to understand the secret plan. The woman takes a step forward, stamping her foot angrily. She is angry at this provincial boy. Julia orders them to catch up with him, break the man's limbs and drown him in the river. Volter asks her to be more careful with strangers, hinting at Michelle. Julia thanks the guy for his kindness and suggests that he contact her if he needs help. Viewers of the live broadcast discuss the quirks of the rich, amazed at their extravagance. Volter is about to hand over the store to Lily, but she protests, considering the gift too expensive. The guy reminds him that the girl specializes in antiques, and her affection grows. Volter thinks that, judging by the low rise in Lily's position, she is not greedy for money. But at the same time, the girl hugs the guy, saying that she will try for the guy. Volter thinks about what a great way to earn reputation streaming is. Meanwhile, streamer Sally is thinking about the profits she can make from such live broadcasts. Lily feels like she's sleeping. The girl can't believe that she's now the owner of the store. Forrest congratulates his sister, who tells him not to step on her china. The girl's heart bleeds at the mere thought of destroying antiques. Volter suggests that Lily cool down, but she asks him not to stop her. The guy says he has something that will help her restore the items. 3 bottles of the elixir should be enough for everything, and the cat bowl can be used for advertising. The girl sees the bigger picture, believing that this item could very well become a symbol of the store. Volter wonders about the value of the store, since Thomas refused compensation to get it. He is curious about what secret is hidden here, and the guy uses X-ray vision. Thanks to him, Volter gains the ability to see through things, but he doesn't intend to remain surprised for too long, as he begins to carefully look around. At some point, the gaze catches on something interesting, quite similar to the reason for the interest. Lily runs up to the guy, offering to look at the first restored item. Volter is amazed by the size, but not at all what the agreeing girl thinks. A new voice is heard from behind, asking if the owner can interrupt the young people. The streamer introduces herself and invites Volter to discuss cooperation. The guy gets overexcited by the abundance of luxurious female forms and loses consciousness. Having come to his senses, he asks Sally if she wants to film his daily life. The girl confirms this, offering to split the proceeds with a margin in favor of the subject of the shoot. Volter hesitates, not wanting to miss out on the big fish. Sally offers even more. She offers the best possible option, where the guy gets 90%. Volter smirks, asking if she seriously thinks he's so petty. He allows the girl to keep the entire reward for herself, but he has several conditions. Sally couldn't even imagine cooperation on such favorable terms, and the guy hands her a 10-year contract and tells her to come at his first call. Seeing the animals around her expressing disagreement, Sally begins to thrash about. And yet the offer seems profitable to the girl. She is ready to sign the document. Volter asks Forrest to stay and help his sister, but he promises to return late. He thinks about how crowded it is during the day, intending to return for the treasure when it gets dark. Sally admires her contractor's car, and he invites her to climb inside. The girl continues filming, thinking about how luxurious this car is. To her surprise, Volter looks into the salon and reaches out to the streamer. She starts squealing about how she doesn't sell her body, but the guy only helps with the belt. The girl feels very ashamed, and the audience begins to make fun of her. The luxury car takes off, and Volter's reputation continues to grow rapidly. In his mind, Volter thinks that the system couldn't even imagine such an increase in reputation. And all because now the era of entertainment and the reign of traffic has arrived. Volter tells his partner that he will take her with him to a meeting with his team of private consultants. The women moving in their direction chirped in unison, eager to greet the boss. They talk about how happy they are to see him and how much they spent this month asking for a raise. The young man says that no matter what the expenses are, he will double the bonus. Joyful women begin to praise their patron. Reading the comments from viewers, Sally compares them to wolves smelling blood. The man exhales heavily, admitting that he is tired to death. The voice of Miranda, the personal secretary, asking him to stop indulging the girls makes you wince. Volter takes her words lightly, saying that it doesn't mean much. The secretary reports on Suzette's visit, who then goes to the boss's private villa. Volter is inwardly triumphant, believing that the woman has finally decided to bow her head. He turns to Sally, offering to go ahead and take her to see his house. A man boasts that he has a private pier at home, and a girl is amazed by the rich man's antics. A voice comes from behind Suzette, asking why she was looking for its owner. The woman says he won by subjugating the ginger congregation. The man says he's sorry because he's changed his mind and doesn't want it anymore. The woman flushes, asking what kind of trick her interlocutor is trying to pull this time. Volter says that she was the one who ruined his mood and asks him to think about his behavior. To the sound of pouring wine, a woman asks a man if he doesn't want her, and with unprecedented determination, she declares that she agrees to such conditions. Taking a sip from his glass, Volter approves of her actions and suggests that she continue. Sally, who is filming the event, is worried that her broadcast will be banned again. The number of viewers is growing rapidly, and they are starting to actively write comments. Something happens that Sally couldn't even expect. She gets banned for pornography forever. Suzette says her body is innocent, and Volter rejoices that she decided to do such a thing. The woman does not want to be dishonored by this man, refusing to believe what is happening. Volter throws his jacket over her, confessing that he desires her. But he is not going to take Suzette by force. The man wants her to want him herself. He says that from today on, all companies and finances are transferred under the responsibility of Suzette. The woman cannot believe that she is being given projects of such impressive value. The interlocutor says that he trusts her, because she is a brilliant businesswoman. Since Volter was the first to notice her merits, Suzette's affection for him rapidly grows. She believes that such a villain is much more honest and better than Chase Sagebrush. In addition, this man reminded her of her forgotten ambitions, and again gave her hope for their realization. Suzette agrees to take care of all the assets, but only if 3 conditions are met. The man agrees, noting how professional the conditions put forward are. Suzette is impressed by this, and her affection reaches the 50 mark. Volter is glad that he restrained himself, convinced that his tactics were correct. The woman asks permission to leave. The man asks her to leave the position to Miranda. As she leaves, Suzette thinks that they still don't trust her, since they assigned a spy to her. Everyone is thinking about their own things. Sally is grieving over her blocked account, and Volter is thinking about his reputation. The man responds to her plight by promising to put in a good word with her boss. He immediately calls Edgar, asking him to unblock the girl, and in exchange offers to go to a spa. Sally doesn't believe it, but they call her, promising to unblock the account soon. The interlocutor shares that the boss himself cannot disobey this request from Volter. They call him a god, causing the girl's surprise at first, and then delight. Sally respectfully thanks her boss, who gives her his business card before saying goodbye. The girl is trying to understand how authoritative the person she is dealing with is. She recalls that Volter offered her to choose a car, but her reasoning is still modest. The girl is amazed by what she sees, realizing that poverty has limited her imagination. Even though she chooses the cheapest car, it is by no means considered as such. Nick can't figure out where Sally got such a car. He thinks she's a cheater. She gets in touch to reassure her followers that everything is fine with the account. Sally says she's going to take a shower, and the audience starts to get active, asking to go with her. The streamer is drawn into unpleasant memories, not wanting to face the pervert from her past, but she remembers the words of the policeman who promised to arrest the offender, and she becomes calmer. In her soul, the streamer hums a song about unhappy love, rejoicing in the pleasant feeling of purity. The door opens, and a man who introduces himself as Sally's husband enters. The live broadcast continues, so one of the subscribers notices the intruder. The rest of the viewers join in and start worrying about their favorite streamer. The girl's song suddenly ends when she sees someone she doesn't want to see. In a low voice, Sally asks how this guy got here. He's talking complete nonsense. The girl tells him to get out of her apartment immediately, and a growl is heard from under the towel. The maniac says he saw Sally leave the villa and drive away in a luxury car. He continues to ramble like a madman, and the girl, in tears, asks the man to leave the apartment. The stalker says that he wants his wife to stay with him forever. It doesn't take him long to put his plan into action, and Sally calls for help. The man is crazy, openly declaring that he wants to burn with the streamer. He asks the girl not to worry, ready to make the entire building die along with them. Sally continues to try to call for help, telling what exactly is happening. Her strength leaves her as the girl whimpers and says she wants to get out. The streamer asks viewers to remember to record their screens, as it could be their last. Subscribers suggest calling Volter, and the girl is filled with hope. She turns to her invisible interlocutor, begging him to answer the call quickly. A robotic voice informs the girl that the number she dialed has hung up. Sally becomes upset and says goodbye to her viewers, believing that she will soon die. The next moment, the door swings open with a noise, and the girl wonders who it is. Volter expresses his regrets to their streamer in the calmest voice. It turns out he was watching Sally's stream and was already on his way when she called him. The girl shares information with her savior about a maniac who set fire to an entire building. And then that same psycho appears on their path, convinced that his wife really did cheat on him. He runs towards his offenders, saying that they will both die in that case. Volter asks Sally to turn off the stream for 5 seconds, and she agrees. The maniac is intoxicated with the hope that only in the next world can they be together forever. But his mentally ill plan is not destined to come true. The Molotov cocktail is shattered into pieces. Bursting into a heart-rending scream, the man manages to appeal to his idol through the pain. He asks her not to leave, sincerely believing that she belongs only to him. Only when the couple finds themselves outside can the girl breathe deeply. She addresses the audience, saying that the person who died in the fire was a pervert. Volter gains about 1 million reputation points and reflects on his actions. He is a clear example of doing a noble deed and at the same time defending justice. The man is going to save the rest of those in need. Sally is worried about him. He says that there are no heroes in the world. There are only people with hot blood. Volter says that he is just in the thick of it, and thousands are being added to his reputation. Stream viewers, hearing such words, involuntarily begin to admire this man. And a little later he manages to save dozens of people who were in the burning building. Sally admires her boss's valor along with the rescued and stream viewers. However, she is unnerved by the fact that the rescuer himself has not yet left the building. They tell her that the man decided to go further and continue saving the others. Sally is outraged by the fact that the rescued person is behaving in such a way. Volter is amazed by the fact that the residents were stopped by nothing other than a hot doorway. He urges the residents, who are afraid of getting burned, in every possible way, even to the point of threats. The man says he will chop them down with this axe if they continue to stand in one place. And although this is a different case, Volter doesn't care. He even urges the wheelchair user on. The man swings the weapon in his hands and mercilessly brings it down on the target. The catalyst turns out to be quite effective, although after this Volter is considered crazy. When the man asks why she doesn't jump, the girl says that she's afraid of falling to her death. He resorts to his method again, promising to cut her down otherwise. The man does not regret what he did at all. On the contrary, he is glad that he was able to help. And having made sure that he has saved everyone, he leaves the building to the cries of those saved. Volter asks Foresta to place Sally at his villa, and he accepts the order for execution. The bodyguard also adds that his sister is waiting for the boss in her store. Having counted his reputation points, Volter realizes that they are enough to obtain the treasure. Michelle doesn't understand why there are still people in the store and it hasn't closed yet. And then they see how Volter approaches him and starts making out with Lily. Michelle checks with her partner about her plans, considering it unwise to postpone them. He suggests waiting, since in this case it is impossible to act hastily. Lily admits that she has long wanted to invite Volter to dinner. He says that he is hungry, and the girl begins to offer her interlocutor different dishes. Lily is happy to introduce the man to the 100-year-old herbal wine she found in the warehouse. Volter begins to hesitate, and the girl asks him what happened. Jumping up from his place, the man begins to frantically search for something. Lily asks what exactly, to which Volter replies that he is trying to find the mechanism. The girl giggles, assuming that this mechanism is a machine gun. The man confesses that this mechanism is supposed to open a secret passage. He continues by saying that he saw for sure that there was a secret room below. Volter is amazed at how dramatically alcohol has changed the lamb's behavior. Grabbing Lily's hand, the man tells her that she needs to sober up, but the girl doesn't understand. And Volter is amazed that this fragile, innocent girl can be like this. Lily says that she loves him very much, and the man tries to stop the girl. Thomas is glad that the two have finally left. He almost fell asleep waiting. Volter realizes that the intruders thought there was no one else in the store. Michelle asks Thomas if he knows how to get the treasure. The answer is yes. The man says he can easily find it using his red gold eyes. He finds the mechanism, saying that a couple of turns will be enough to open the secret entrance. Michelle walks up to the appropriate button and presses it, causing the door to open. The woman admires her companion, seeing many cultural relics in front of her. They start looking at things. Thomas reminds Michelle of the agreement about dividing things. Volter speaks up, noting that as a witness he should also get some. Thomas is a little confused, clarifying that it turns out that the man didn't go anywhere. Volter attacks the intruders, outraged that they decided to rob the store. Thomas fails to dodge completely, and his opponent notes the excellent sharpness of the dagger. Volter wonders if his opponent can deflect 36 blades. Thomas admits that he was not revived, that a major like his opponent possesses such skills. However, this does not solve anything, because Volter has encountered the wrong enemy. Using the eyes of red gold, Thomas begins to list his titles. He says that his actions are always precise, and he never makes any mistakes. So the man sentences Volter to death by stabbing him with a dagger. He also considers the weapon to be good, but notes that the enemy underestimates it, and the man activates a powerful technique, pushing Thomas away from himself. Volter invites him to try out his 9 dragons' true energy on himself, and leaning forward he delivers a blow sparkling with energetic twists and turns. It turns out to be powerful and unexpected. Thomas doesn't have time to put up a block. Volter mentally rejoices at having received strength and the opportunity to fight. The man regrets that he cannot get Thomas's pride and ability points. And then something unexpected happens. The system identifies the blonde as a proud son of heaven. Volter is amazed by this, as well as by the fact that Thomas will be awarded 2 points. The man understands that they won't give him that much for free. Such an opponent cannot be underestimated. Michelle asks Volter to calm down. There was a misunderstanding that could be resolved. The woman apologizes for Thomas, saying that he was too impulsive. They came for antiques, which are a national treasure. One hero gave documents for relics to his homeland, but on the way to the country, he was robbed. Later, information was received that the stolen goods were located in an antique town. Michelle shares the plan, admitting that they wanted to use it during the day. Now the physical evidence has been found, but suspicion will fall on the current owner of the store. Volter agrees to cooperate, allowing him to take whatever he wants. Thomas bursts out laughing to himself, thinking it's too late for that. Lily runs up to the couple but behaves strangely. Volter asks what's wrong with her, and the next moment, awareness hits like a swift avalanche, followed by pain. The man calls the girl by name, and a glimmer of awareness appears in her eyes. Volter clarifies his assumptions, and Thomas confirms his suspicions. Another ability of the Eye of Red Gold is soul trapping. Michelle apologizes to Volter, saying that she didn't think her partner would do that. The man doesn't believe it, thinking that the woman distracted his attention on purpose. Michelle asks Thomas why he did this, since the enemy lowered the dagger. The thing is that the blonde doesn't trust rich people, believing that Volter could have betrayed him. Michelle calls the man a scumbag, and he corrects her by replacing the word with caution. Thomas doesn't stop at what he's done, and even plans to get rid of the witness. But he's not going to stain his hands with blood by ordering the girl to commit suicide. It takes Lily a few moments to put the blade to her neck and draw it across her throat. Volter is unable to control his emotions, shouting out just one word that means denial. Clenching his hand into a fist, he tells Thomas that he is now definitely a dead man. Now the man will definitely finish him off at any cost. Thomas says that the dagger's blade is poisonous, and that Volter will also die. As Michelle apologizes, the man thinks that even if he becomes a ghost, he will not leave the killers. Thomas asks the woman to hurry, not wanting anyone to come running and find them. Michelle accuses the man of murder, expressing a desire to arrest him. She didn't sign up for the murders. Volter and Lily weren't supposed to die. The blonde man believes that Michelle is going to arrest him solely because of the man's death. He tells the woman that they were merely taking back what was rightfully theirs. The man uses his ability on his accomplice, and she agrees to arrest Julia. He himself wasn't even sure that his red gold eyes could rewrite memories. As he dies, Volter thinks that Lily should never die so miserably. Overcoming himself and going into the store, he says that he will not let this happen. A man feels incredibly disappointed when he sees a message about the store closing. Volter screams like a wounded animal, saying that the system cannot do this to people. The woman appears before him immediately, stating that even fate has turned its back on him. She asks if he didn't think about something like this when he locked her up in prison. Volter is well aware that this woman will not miss the opportunity to get even with him. He believes that he has only one way out. He needs to try to beg the system. The man says that this innocent girl is not related to their personal differences. Diana can't believe that this man is capable of such a thing. She begins to doubt. Volter believes that even system administrators cannot resist natural laws. Although he was not entirely sure of this, fearing that this woman would not save Lily. The girl jumps up in bed, waking up from a nightmare and warning Volter of danger. He appears nearby, calming Lily and saying that everything is already behind her. The girl apologizes for hurting him, saying she didn't mean to do it. She continues to say something else, but the man gently interrupts her. When Forrest enters the room, he is so stunned that the bag containing the treat falls from his hands. The guy assumes he was hired to flirt with his sister, but the boss retorts. Volter notices that Forrest arrived in a hurry and asks if something happened by accident. The guy tells her that Michelle's people came to arrest Julia. Volter thinks, realizing that his intervention could only make things worse. He asks Forrest to pass on something to the woman's family, but Dinah asks the owner to slow down. She reminds him of the imminent completion of the task with Lily, but the man has mixed thoughts. Then Diana invites the owner to look at the details of the transition to the next level. He will experience an improvement in all of his skills, and therefore an increase in his chances of defeating Thomas. The man says that he is going to avenge Lily, but she asks him not to do it. Volter asks her not to be afraid, saying that he cannot be called a man without avenging the girl. Lily's affection grows. She thinks that she is very happy from the man's care. The system notifies about the task completion and awards a point along with the talent. The user's rank increases, and he receives an improvement in all skills with a strengthening of the body. Volter thinks that now he will deal with everyone like Thomas. He is disgusted by the meanness and cruelty of those who dare to play with innocent lives. The man agrees with the words of the person who considered him vindictive. Julia notes that not allowing access to a lawyer is a direct violation of rights. Michelle tells her interlocutor to be silent, starting to list what she is accused of. Julia believes that someone from her family set her up using the right methods. The driver reflexively screams from the blinding light, trying to understand its cause. He is forced to brake to avoid a collision and gets out of the car. She comments on what is happening, giving it a grandiose assessment, and the woman is answered immediately. Volter asks Michelle if she is very upset that he is alive. The woman asks her interlocutor, puzzled, why she should be upset. The man presses on, recalling the events, but Michelle is genuinely perplexed as to what is going on. Volter begins to understand what the problem is, suspecting that Thomas has a hand in it. The man asks Michelle to give him Julia, but she threatens to report him to higher authorities. Volter thinks that he had great difficulty in securing support, and this will have an impact in the future. Julia is released and says that she will be indebted to her savior for the rest of her life. Volter inquires about Thomas, and it turns out that he left the special forces without being part of it. Julia assumes that the man got involved in this affair because he fell in love with her. The interlocutor is silent, mentally condescendingly allowing her the liberty to think so. Using his acting skills, he says that he will make Thomas pay for what he did. Julia also plays, saying that she is very touched, and that Volter is the only one who cares about her. The man notices that despite all their differences, they are almost the same age. He recalls that in elementary school, Julia was always protective of him. Because of these words, the woman's disposition towards Volter increases by 20 points. He realizes that he has overdone it, as Julia really does give in to the impulse of feelings. The car stops as it passes. Michelle turns to Volter. She advises the man to mind his own business, as the situation in the White family is ambiguous. Volter says that his affairs should not concern her and asks her to say hello to Thomas. Julia thanks her savior for his help, saying that she can handle it on her own from now on. The man wonders why this woman's level of favor is so high. What's even more shocking is that her potential hero, Thomas, almost killed this woman. A task arrives that requires increasing Julia's favor. The man wastes no time asking if she can really handle it on her own. He offers Julia a ride, citing the need to help her until the end. The woman feels flattered and grateful that this man was generous. Later, she becomes indignant at being barred from entering. The servant reports that he was ordered not to let the women of the family in, for which he receives. Yax is surprised when Julia bursts into the room, asking about her return. The woman asks if he is really upset about her return. The man says he called the meeting to remove his interlocutor from her position as head of the family. Others join in, believing that a woman in this position only undermines the family's reputation. It was a different matter when Yax took charge, and that's when everything fell into place as it should. Julia doesn't care about their opinions. She asks where her grandfather is now. Yax replies that the old man died yesterday out of anger at his beloved granddaughter. Julia refuses to believe it, asking about her brother, who is always loyal to her. A new voice is heard nearby, confirming that the uncle told the truth. Eustace, the heir's adopted son, tells Julia to get out of the family. The woman cannot believe that her half-brother is in cahoots with these people. She asks him why this is so, but the realization is already creeping in. A woman accuses a man of betrayal. His lips stretch into an arrogant grin. Eustace grins, noting that Julia realized all this too late. He says that he is going to take revenge on her for the fact that the woman refused to marry him. Julia says that it is not so easy to break her. You will have to try hard. The woman asks those present to help her, promising to reward this gesture later. The guards realize she's right. Julia has always treated them well. They are going to fight for the only head of state for them, for this woman. But Eustace is strong, and the men know it very well, despite their selflessness and devotion. Calling the guards a bunch of idiots, the blonde man slams one of them hard into the floor. After this, he abruptly changes his stance and uses the dragon fist technique on the attackers. Moving towards Julia, the man triumphantly announces that it is her turn. A strong hand prevents him from doing this, pushing him back. Eustace realizes that he was pushed back by internal force, and he is amazed by the presence of techniques in his opponent. They turn against Volter, who stood up to defend Julia, and began to bark angrily. The whites are outraged that this man is interfering in the internal affairs of the family. Yax asks if Volter is sure he wants to declare war on them. He smiles, asking again and pretends to think, after which he answers. Volter agrees, saying that the proposal seems good to him. Yax says that unlike others, their family is not afraid of this man. Therefore, he is ready to condescend to him and enter into war with Volter Black. The man heroically sends his adopted nephew to the front lines. Tom doesn't like the commanding tone, but the man still clashes with his fists against his opponent. The blonde guy can't believe that his opponent has such impressive inner strength. Volter is also impressed, because this man stands against him even after the upgrade. And yet he is determined to deal with the enemy instead of Thomas. The man decides to try out the improved technique of the 36 Blood Lotus daggers. Eustace is not afraid of the weapon flying at him, confident that his dragon fist is in no way affected. While deflecting the daggers, the man says that they are useless against him. The whites discuss the participants in the battle, admiring their strength and abilities. Volter has a liking for the dragon fist and is determined to get it. The man grabs another weapon and suddenly launches a surprise attack. Eustace considers this to be meanness. Seeing the defeat of his representative, the whites scream. Having missed the decisive moment, they now cannot understand how it happened. Along with the win, Volter receives villain points and wonders what they are. Dana draws a parallel between pride and reputation points. Volter considers reputation points meaningless. He sees no problem in obtaining them. The system notifies the owner of a successful exchange when Julia calls him. The woman's favor increased by another 10, reaching the level of worship. The whites are categorically opposed to the man. They are outraged by his behavior. Yax tells him that Volter is now doomed, even if his family is powerful. By kicking the man, his interlocutor says that he is being too noisy. Volter requests arrest because there are witnesses and material evidence. Michelle assumes that the man wants to accuse the deceased of stealing the relics. Yax screams desperately that he never even touched the relics with his finger. Saying that this is Eustace's doing, he stops short, realizing that he has said too much. Yax corrects himself by saying that stealing the relics has absolutely no meaning to him. The man asks if he had anything to do with the murder of his father, Charlie. He says that he is a dutiful son to his father, and there is a knock on wood. The whites turn around in horror, not understanding what is happening, but knowing where the sound is coming from. The coffin lid opens, and the resurrected Charlie deftly jumps out. He addresses his son, calling him a degenerate who poisoned his father. Continuing, the deceased says that he strangled him while he was still alive with a pillow. The words about raising such a cruel son turn out to be the last straw. Along with the blood, Yax's soul leaves, and he breathes his last. For scaring the shit out of this man, Volter gets 2 villain points. He couldn't even imagine that such a way of obtaining them existed. Michelle checks with the head of the whites to see if Yax really attempted to assassinate him. The woman apologizes to Volter because he turned out to be right about everything. She leaves with her subordinates, accompanied by Julia's shouts, promising to file a complaint against them. Charlie says that from this day on, he is handing over his powers to his granddaughter, and this is not discussed. The old man tells her to maintain good relations with the black family, not forgetting to help. He also orders that his nameplate be changed to the name and photo of his second son. Julia doesn't understand why Charlie is alive, and the interlocutor shares with her information about the resurrection pill. The woman feels delighted that such a valuable item was used for her. The point is that the pill is not passed down through generations. Volter bought it for reputation points. The system reports crashes due to reputation value increasing too quickly, and also about receiving 100, 200,000 and 1 million reputation points. Sally allows herself a smile as she says it's finally over. Viewers of the live broadcast are actively discussing the most significant events that have recently occurred. Julia's level of loyalty to Volter reaches the level of love, and she begins to cheat. The woman takes active steps, inviting the man into her room to evaluate the treasure. Volter says that he considers it impudent to enter a woman's private chambers. Julia finds this man's shyness attractive, and he begins to understand the hints. Volter agrees to see how valuable this woman's treasure is. Throwing Julia onto the bed, he tells her she shouldn't have gotten involved with him. And while the man kisses the woman, the system congratulates him on completing the task. The user gains a talent for insight, but loses Heaven's Pride points. The next day, Volter expresses surprise regarding Julia's first time. She says that she is not forcing him to take responsibility, since she was the one who initiated it. Julia invites a man to accompany her to the magic stone auction. He agrees, but says he's going to take a few more people with him. This auction is the first since the end of the war, which caused the suspension of activities. Lily tells her companions which stones are the main reason they gathered here. These stones are the royal ones, which they are passing by right now. The price of one of these is 500 million, and its owner is Thomas. Volter is amazed that it doesn't take much effort to find this guy. Forrest reports that Thomas was detained by security for not having an invitation. Volter is well aware of this strategy. Soon someone will give the blonde an invitation. The man asks the bodyguard to arrange for the manager to issue Thomas a pass. Volter offers his ladies to accompany him to the observation room. Thomas is indignant that they won't let him in, since one of the royal stones is his. The guard apologizes, but entry is not possible without an invitation. The trading manager orders the security guards to move aside, noisily indicating Thomas's status. The man ingratiatingly says that he will now give the blonde guy a pass, and the very next moment, instant punishment befalls the guards. The men respectfully ask the master for forgiveness, saying that they did not recognize him. He mentally enjoys such a relationship, because he hasn't felt anything like this for a long time. Thomas's first order of business is to find all the high-quality rough stones. Red Gold's eyes require a lot of strength, so he decides to write everything down so as not to forget. While making notes in his notebook, Thomas repeats what he has written to himself. Volter orders his bodyguard to buy back all the stones marked by the blonde man. Julia thinks it's too risky because a mistake could happen. Volter replies that he believes this man, silently thinking about the eyes of Red Gold. The woman asks her interlocutor to help her, describing the situation with her family's minds. She is not sure that she can gain recognition from the company and recognition after suffering a defeat. The man says that everyone will be impressed if Julia buys this stone. He allows the woman to do this, promising that he will not buy the stone himself. Julia expresses concern that she will not have enough funds to purchase it. The man asks to believe him, mentally believing that Thomas could not have driven himself into the negative. Although it is difficult for the woman to implement this, she still agrees. And the very next moment he announces his firm intention to buy this stone. The woman mentally addresses Volter, promising to believe her first man. The host invites those present to begin bidding for the royal stone at 500 million. Participants begin to compete with each other in offering their prices, but the rates do not rise too quickly. But gradually the competition gains momentum, becoming fierce. This time, young Mr. Volter Black acts as a representative of his family. Thomas thinks that he, like 3 other representatives of the great families, will be destroyed. The man tells the others to hold the end, intending to buy back the king's stone. Julia tells him to get lost, saying that no one dares to claim her for themselves. A stunned sigh escapes the lips of Thomas, who turns towards her. He cannot believe that Volter did not die then, because the dagger was poisoned. Forrest is about to put the blonde in his place, but his owner stops him, asking him to wait. The game has just begun, and the man intends to enjoy it for a little longer. Under the dumbfounded gaze of the blonde, Julia offers 750 million. She gets an opponent who raises the bet by another 50 million. Wood apologizes to Julia, boasting about the will left by his grandfather. The woman says that his will not come true. The man raises the bet to 900. Thomas mentally triumphs, enjoying the clash between the two, confident in his own advantage. Volter asks the woman to raise the bet to 1 billion, sowing seeds of doubt in her. Yet Julia follows her man's advice, raising the stake to 1 billion. The boys who were fighting with her earlier suddenly turn towards the woman. Julia is overcome with doubts. She recalls the words of the experts and their maximum forecast. She mentally addresses the men, urging them to hurry up and raise the stakes. They are already raising their hands, about to offer more, but suddenly they feel a terrible aura. The blonde guy says that he won't do it because he hasn't been feeling well lately. Volter turns to the second, offering to give him the price of his wine cup. He doesn't even think twice, and thanking his interlocutor for his generosity, also gives in. The woman is congratulated on the successful acquisition of the royal stone. Live viewers discuss manipulations similar to a tacit agreement among high society. Sally talks about the most important part of gambling, cutting the stone. If you make a cut once, the price will fall. If you don't see a glow, it's a dud. Julia says that choosing which part to dissect requires its own technique. Volter now understands how this woman acquired her insight. Having selected the area, Julia asks to make a vertical cut strictly along the contour. The stone turns out to be completely empty, which causes general indignation. But Julia believes that everything is still ahead. She still has hope for the best. However, the green light never appears, which can only mean one thing: money wasted. Sally shares her knowledge about the color of stones. The white color inside is called chicken manure stone, and so far the prognosis is bleak. Julia loses hope, reproaching Volter for trusting him. Viewers of the live broadcast echo the frustrated woman, sharing her feelings. But Julia still pulls herself together, ordering them to continue cutting the stone. She says she doesn't believe there's anything empty inside, and Thomas tells her to stop doing that. He says that if we continue to crush the king's stone, it will become completely useless. The blonde offers to buy out the remaining share from her for 200 million. Julia is tormented, leaning more towards this option because she does not want to suffer losses. The woman is already saying the first word, but she is stopped and told to wait. Volter clarifies whether Thomas really intends to buy the stone, which was sold for 1 billion. This way he could have gotten 800 million net, but unfortunately he got involved with the wrong person. Spectators are in anticipation, believing that they are in for a showdown between two titans. Sally believes that the stone should be sold, saving at least some of the money. Thomas flares up, asking who said that sold stones cannot be redeemed. He asks Volter why it matters to him. The man retorts with a grin, and he says that Julia is his woman, which means that her things are his too. Thomas thinks about the sudden strange feeling that he had of being cuckolded. He offers 500 million, believing that this will reduce their losses to a minimum. Julia agrees, but Volter interrupts her, saying that the stone is not for sale. The woman asks if her man really wants to have fun watching her ruin. He begins to charm her, saying that this billion is insignificant in front of her. Noticing the growing affection, Volter says that he is not pleased with Julia's sadness. The spectators watching this scene praise the man, considering him a master of seduction. Julia says a detailed examination revealed no trace of emerald. Volter is confident that he will appear, but the woman does not understand where such confidence comes from. The man replies that it's all about Thomas, thinking that the man's hands are magical. Julia asks how Volter will know where the emerald is without damaging it. He says that he will do this thanks to his woman, by activating the talent of insight. Having discovered the jewel, the man asks to cut the stone along the crack on the left. Former competitors consider this to be a show, and the situation is becoming increasingly unclear. Thomas begins to panic, not understanding how the enemy managed to see the emerald. As soon as they begin to make the cut, the observers gasp in amazement. The blonde guy thinks that Volter has become fabulously rich after grabbing such a large stone. His words are supported by others, who consider the man a real lucky man. Thomas denies it, saying it is not the royal emerald at all. Julia herself understands that such a glow is thousands of times rarer than the royal stone. Rumor has it that at night, the entire royal palace is illuminated by the light of lanterns made of a rare stone. The woman believes that even crumbs of this stone will amaze the whole world. The starting price for this treasure should start in the tens of billions. The woman can't believe that the stone could have slipped from under her nose so easily. Thomas is ready to argue with her about the failure since his stone was stolen. He begins to feel like he will live his whole life in this man's shadow. Julia asks to take the remains of the precious stone, promising to be grateful for the rest of her life. The man asks how she plans to thank him. Julia promises to obey Volter in everything, and to obey him unquestioningly. The answer satisfies the man, and he loudly declares that the entire stone is hers. The woman finds it hard to believe, so she asks again to clarify. Former competitors can't believe this fool fell for the trick. Volter confirms his words, saying that he would sell his country for such a beauty. The affection begins to rapidly increase, reaching the level of falling in love. The man is amazed by the intensity of Julia's feelings and the possible gossip that follows. The men become jealous, but they also put forward a theory about the union of the two families. Thomas can't understand why his heart hurts, creating a feeling like after a betrayal. Lily rushes to Volter, saying that all the stones he chose turned out to be high-quality emeralds. She starts to name their total cost but stops short, breaking abruptly. Feeling the stunned gaze on them, the two move away from each other. And as soon as Lily catches Volter's eyes on her, she calls him a scumbag. Whining, the girl says that she no longer wants to have anything to do with him. The man can't tell whether she's offended or not, and Julia suggests following her friend. He is of a different opinion, believing that trying to follow Lily will backfire on him. Forrest asks his boss if it might be a good time to kill. Volter believes that this proposal will lead to his loss. He also says that Forrest will not need to take part in it this time. Forrest can't understand why this is so, but he thinks the boss's words sound cool. Volter has changed so much that his friends don't know what to expect from him. Anyone who thinks this way is reassured, because he has a very rare power, which only a few possess. The man wonders if the union of Volter and Julia will affect their plans. The interlocutor considers the grandfather's anger to be the most negative consequence, Wood thinks. There is movement behind Sonia, and a male voice tells her not to move. Thomas says he has no bad intentions, he just wants to borrow their car. Sonia suggests putting the knife away if the man is hiding from Volter, he clarifies. Thomas asks if this man is an enemy to them, but he is a hindrance. The blonde apologizes upon hearing this information and makes himself more comfortable. Forrest asks why this car is not being stopped and receives a comprehensive answer. The couple is thanked for the service rendered, promised to remember it, and said goodbye until they see each other again. Sonia offers Thomas a drink since the weather is hot, and he thanks her for her concern. The interlocutor says that she believes in him and is waiting for the man to repay them for everything. Thomas is going to consider this girl's intentions, believing that he must not let his guard down. Wood thinks that he wouldn't want to cross Volter's path because of the blonde. Thomas is unable to read Sonia's thoughts, which speaks of her innocence and kindness. And at that very moment the bottle falls from the man's hands, followed by the blonde man's body. Wood asks the girl what she did, and she remembers Volter's words, which turned out to be true. Thomas couldn't read her thoughts because Sonia was using lenses. Wood believes that Volter is not the best person, and the girl should stay away from him. A familiar voice is heard nearby, asking to be spared from continuing his own insults. Volter says that Sonia did all this for Wood, who is surprised by the presence of this man. The man extends his hand to the girl, noting that they work well together. Sonia says she did what he asked, now he must do his part. Wood asks the girl to tell him more about it, but she says that the deal is secret. Watching Sonia's back, Volter finds her quite interesting. The man turns to Thomas, telling him to make sure he dies in agony. After all, only in this way will Volter be able to calm his own anger. Forrest reports that he fed Thomas mushrooms, and there is no more room in him. The boss is pleased. These mushrooms, carefully selected by Volter, have a strong hallucinogenic effect. The man wants the person who loves to worship to experience this feeling for himself. Forrest considers him cruel, but when it comes to Thomas, he likes it, and the bodyguard's favor grows. Coming to his senses, the blonde tries to understand where he is and why his head is spinning so much. Seeing his reflection, Thomas doesn't understand why this man looks like him. It seems to him that he wants to harm him, and the man gets angry at what is being pointed out to him. This is an unusual mirror, so the consequences of its attack are appropriate. Thomas screams, complaining that his head is splitting. He tries to understand who all these people are, what they want, and why they look at him like that. The blonde man screams furiously, telling them to stop and not come near him. By performing the full activation of the red gold eyes, Thomas promises to destroy everyone. But instead of causing damage to his opponents, only his own body suffers. Volter rejoices, and the system congratulates him on the successful completion of the task. He thinks he's done with Thomas, and admits he didn't expect things to drag on for so long. Now Volter can use the red gold eyes, and he's going to try them out. Thomas turns to his invisible father, expressing his desire for a pacifier. Even Volter did not expect this, assuming that the man had degraded. Forrest believes that he has become an idiot due to the use of the eyes, which have reflected back on him. Volter does not share the bodyguard's joy, suggesting that Thomas may be pretending. The blonde continues to address his dad, saying that he wants to play with the gun. He manages to snatch the weapon, and Forrest orders him to return it immediately. Volter comes up with a brilliant idea, and sends Thomas to fly in the sky. The blonde obediently follows the man's recommendation, expressing joy at the prospect. Volter, noticing that Thomas has stopped, asks why he doesn't take off. Smiling, the man tries to instill in the blonde the former joy of flight. Thomas asks his interlocutor if he really understood everything, and his tone changes. He admits that he underestimated Volter, and Volter admits that he succeeded thanks to the eyes. Thomas says he doesn't understand what he's talking about, but it doesn't matter because his opponent will die soon. Forrest takes off, shouting a warning to his master to be careful. However, when Thomas tries to shoot, he discovers that there are no bullets in the gun. Volter compliments Forrest, saying that his loyalty has been confirmed, and he adds that now he is not just his bodyguard, but also his brother. Forrest notes that even brothers need to be paid, and his interlocutor agrees without skimping. Thomas continues to try to understand why the gun is not loaded. Volter explains it in a popular way. That day, the blonde tried to kill him, but now his trump card will turn against him. Volter intends to repay his enemy 100-fold. Under the influence of multiple attacks, Thomas loses coordination and pays dearly for it. For excellent performance of the task, Volter receives an additional reward. These pills are highly effective and give great strength. Volter generously shares one of these with his bodyguard. He doesn't suspect anything, although the smell of the offered candy seems strange to him. Forrest remarks that he might feel ill, considering this to be too insidious. But the very next moment his opinion changes, and the guy wants to try out the new power. It is very difficult for him to restrain himself, because his blood is literally boiling, forcing him to act. Volter watches the attempts to release energy with regret. But the man also reminds the bodyguard to take the billion from Thomas, and he agrees. Julia asks why Volter was looking for her, saying that she is busy now. These matters are connected with the royal stone, but the man doesn't care. He does things his own way. The woman asks if he is ashamed to do such a thing in broad daylight. Volter reminds Julia of her own words about gratitude, and she is embarrassed. She thinks it's too indecent to do this on the side of the road. But the man jokes it off. The woman moans, asking if Volter really wants to have fun with her to death. Later, getting out of the car, she asks not to do this again. Her legs are still buckling. While they are saying goodbye, they don't notice how someone is watching them. The man believes that the date between these two in the car will be the news of the year. However, he himself is caught before he can even finish his sentence, ordering the photo to be deleted. Zilla promises 100,000 in return. The man turns around at the familiar voice. He knows this woman, and says that an exchange is possible, but not for money. The man asks for payment of a different kind, and pays according to his demand. Scylla orders him to give her the camera, not letting it fall to the ground. She makes threats while taking the necessary actions. Scylla promises to send the right people if the situation repeats itself. The man apologizes. She mentally asks Volter to at least spend the night at home, despite the impossibility of being faithful. Returning to the villa, Scylla notices the man's car, making an assumption. She thinks that Volter likes patient people, so she can't show her dissatisfaction. But the sight of this picture makes things even worse, and Scylla asks if they are really having lunch. Noticing that the woman has returned, Volter orders her to warm up the cold food. Scylla says it doesn't matter, they can eat it cold just fine. Volter tells Sally to sit on his lap and feed him. The girl refuses, but the man manipulates her feelings, recalling the incident with the fire. Volter offers to feed her, but Sally says she won't eat. The man tells Scylla that she will now sleep somewhere else, giving the room to Sally. The woman does not object even when Volter says that this will bring them closer. Sally doesn't like this. She says that Zilla doesn't have to move out because of her. Finally, the woman speaks up, asking what Volter is trying to achieve. She justifies herself while loyalty reaches the level of obsession. Fear goes off the charts. Saying that Scylla has always been faithful to Volter, Sally is about to run away. The man is dissatisfied with the woman's behavior, asking how she dared to go against him. Remembering his words about wanting to take a young body, Zilla moves on to active action. Volter tells her to stop and says he can see the woman doesn't want to work there. He tells Zilla to get out of here and get a job at the central hospital. The woman can no longer contain herself, and the man sinks heavily into the chair. Sally asks why he drove Zilla away, because it seems that this is not what he wanted. Volter says that he is very angry with her. He is puzzled by the fact of her unclear relationship with Far. Sally says the thing is that the man is truly in love with Zilla. He asks again, surprised by what he heard, because he thinks it is impossible. He says that he considers Zilla a servant, who is at most sympathetic to him. Sally says that forced service cannot keep anyone for long. The next morning, Volter calls Zilla, telling her to look after him. Instead of a beautiful female voice, Forrest addresses his boss. Volter does not understand why this is so, and his interlocutor reminds him of Zilla's location. She is in the hospital now, but Forrest can send for her. The man wants her repentance. The bodyguard says the woman refuses. Now she has become the chief physician of the hospital. The news that Zilla has fallen in love with the young doctor shocks Volter. Forrest says he's joking, but the woman is close to her elder brother and has a good future. Volter says he needs to go to this central hospital. Lily asks her brother why he came only now. It's about her mother's operation. He says that he just met Volter. The latter greets the girl. Lily snorts haughtily, which infuriates Forrest. The guy says that it was the boss who invited the surgeon for their mother. The girl is not bothered by this. Volter asks how the woman is doing. The situation is not optimistic. The neurosurgeon says the tumor is located in a very dangerous place. The woman says she has already informed her senior colleague, Fort Ship. His acupuncture technique is excellent. Perhaps traditional medicine can help here. Volter begins to fawn over Zilla, struck by the sight of her in a medical uniform. The neurosurgeon is outraged, saying that traditional medicine is a load of bullshit. Zilla counters by saying that the hospital combines Western and traditional medicine. The interlocutor says that he would not have come here if it were not for Volter's request. The latter uses Jacob's words against him, and he realizes that he screwed up. And he corrects himself, saying that he was hasty, but tries to gently insist on his own. Another person appears in the room. This man says that he does not agree with what was said. Fort says traditional medicine is evolving just as much as Western medicine. Zilla fully supports her senior colleague, demonstrating independence to Volter. Gradually they shift the focus of the conversation, starting to pay each other compliments. Volter says that the interlocutor is thinking very narrowly. He is talking about increasing the education of workers. Zilla finds herself thinking that she also supports this man, and she pulls herself together, reminding herself that she must continue to remain detached. Fort finds these words outrageous, asking Volter who he is. And while they continue to argue, Lily notices that her mother's condition has worsened. The visiting neurosurgeon says he might try to perform the operation for Volter's sake. The man thinks that Fort may well turn out to be the proud son of heaven. He says it's too late to send this woman to the operating room. Instead, Fort suggests allowing him to broaden the horizons of those present. The lost technique of the 13 needle gates turns out to be a way to expand one's horizons. Jacob is skeptical about these flying needles, not believing that they will help. Volter thinks the neurosurgeon is playing with fire by mocking the proud son of heaven. A terminally ill woman is amazed at how much time she slept after skipping lunch. Jacob can't believe that this is all happening for real, and he hears laughter nearby. Fort asks what's so special about a simple illness. The nurse admires the miracle that happened. Meanwhile, the system officially detects the proud son of heaven, the owner thinks. Lily is amazed by the man's actions, asking where he is taking her mother. He says that to confirm her recovery, he is going to take her for a CT scan. The girl forgets about her hostility. She and her brother unanimously call Volter attentive. The man asks the woman to calmly undergo the CT scan and not to worry about anything. She thanks him. To implement his insidious plan, all that remains is to buy a doppelganger doll. The system reports the successful acquisition of the mentioned item and announces the remaining points. The man is amazed by the resemblance of the doll double to a real person. They are indistinguishable. After this, Volter tells her to close her eyes and stop being nervous. He tells her not to breathe, pretending to be dead for a while. And he hurries to the company, fearfully announcing to those present about the sudden death of his aunt. Zilla tries to understand what went wrong, because just now everything was fine. Volter suggests asking his senior colleague about this, since he is a doctor. Jacob recalls his words, becoming convinced that this man is a charlatan. The man doesn't lose his composure, saying that it's a normal fainting spell, from which he can be pulled out. Confidence evaporates when a woman doesn't respond to technology. He doesn't understand what's going on, because he did everything right. But the worst thoughts creep into his head. Forrest calls him a charlatan, accusing Fort of killing his mother. The man does not defend himself as he turns to his junior colleague and asks her to trust him. He is absolutely sure that Volter is to blame for what is happening, but Zilla does not believe him. The woman tells him to expect punishment for such gross medical negligence. Lily tells Volter that she was wrong and begins to beg him to save her mother. Forrest joins his sister in asking for help for their mother with the resurrection cure. The man asks them to get up, saying that he would help this woman in any case. Taking advantage of his position, Volter reminds the girl of her promise, and she agrees. Fort can't believe that there is a medicine in the world that can resurrect people. Volter says it's a secret technique, so he needs privacy. Fort begins to question his own foundations and knowledge. Having driven further away, Volter tells the doll double to return. A man apologizes to a woman for leaving, and she says everything is fine. On the way back, she shares her thoughts about how she considers Volter to be a good guy. The woman believes that if Lily finds them a son-in-law like him, she will be able to die happy. The man pretends not to have heard, and announces to those present their return. Fort looks at the living woman with a dumbfounded expression, openly showing his disbelief. Volter kicks him, saying that there is no more room for him in the central hospital. He continues, warning that if he tries to disobey, his legs will be broken. Fort is indeed leaving, but suggests that we see how life will turn out. Later, he calls out to the person who started the explosion, asking how he dared to do such a thing. The man is outraged, because this looks very much like a targeted murder. After assessing the damage, Fort realizes that the girl needs urgent treatment. She is dying. He can't just stand by, so he uses his 13 needles technique. The woman comes to her senses, asking if he was the one who helped her. This girl turns out to be the president of Cyclone. Her name is Elena. She is grateful to her savior. Volter tells Zeal to pour him a glass of water. The woman suggests that Sally do it. She reminds that today is the last day of their contractual relationship. The woman says that from now on Volter must take care of himself. She continues, reminding him that now she will not wish him good morning, afternoon, or night. Volter says she managed to anger him and thereby attract his attention. Scylla says that he is childish and dependent. The man loses his patience, telling the woman to look at him right now. He says that he is ready to forgive her if she admits she was wrong. Scylla pushes the man away, asking where she could have gone so wrong. And she answers her own question, it's impossible, because she never betrayed him. Volter asks how dare she disobey him and shout, something that hasn't happened since childhood. The man tells Zilla to get out, saying that he never wants to see her again. The woman takes this calmly, promising not to cross the threshold of this house again. In her mind, she tries to understand why this man is so cruel to her. The man does not understand why Scylla listened to him, because before she had done the complete opposite. He stutters as he begins to speak, but still finishes, asking the woman not to leave. Scylla says that she also cannot leave him, because she does not know how to live without him. The location reaches 99 points. The woman is hopelessly in love with Volter. The man says that he doesn't want her to leave, but wants her to be with him all his life. Scylla asks if he has gone crazy, since they are now in the living room. She suggests going upstairs away from prying eyes. Volter has a different opinion. He is used to taking what he wants, where he wants. There is no stopping him. The woman wants to take off her robe, but the man asks her not to do so. She says he is very bad, but she likes it. She is dead in love with Volter. Scylla admits that she eventually fell into the clutches of this handsome womanizer. The man asks her not to tarnish his honor, swearing that he loves only her. The woman shows the flash drive, reminding him of what she and Julia did in the car. Volter admits this, adding that they were filmed intentionally. Zeal wonders why. The man says that he has a fiancée with whom he entered into a marriage contract before her birth. He expresses hope that the conflict will cause her to call off the engagement. Volter wants to send incriminating evidence to this mysterious stranger directly. The system congratulates the owner on completing the quest to win the heart of Zilla Asterism. As a reward, he receives 2 heavenly pride points and a talent for modern medicine. The man wonders why the number of points has doubled. Dana says it's because Zilla has hidden Heaven's pride points. The man wonders why this is so, to which the woman replies that even she doesn't know. Diana admits that this even makes her feel angry. The woman says that Volter must understand that the people around him are not simple. The man thinks about this, trying to isolate a certain variable from everything. He believes the key to the mystery lies with the Dragon King, Chase Sagebrush. The person mentioned is informed that one person wants to see him. He confirms his words that he is ready to assist and help resolve problems abroad. But only if he is released, Michelle agrees. But only if Volter is not touched. The man says the familiar name with a grin, slowly drawing it out. They hurry to the eldest heiress, addressing her respectfully. Lana rushes to her mistress, saying that she just received a video of her fiancé. The girl repeats the words after her assistant, recalling the name of her betrothed. Lana suggests taking advantage of this provocation and breaking off the engagement with this womanizer. Supreme's eldest heir, Bloom, asks why she should do this. Lana explains, saying that she considers it necessary to erase this dog from the lady's life. The girl has a different opinion. She considers marriage and fate to be things that cannot be joked about. She orders her subordinate to give her the tablet immediately, and remembers an important moment. Bloom orders her assistant to wear only vintage clothes from tomorrow onwards. Lana begins to believe that a serious illness has impaired the heiress's mental abilities. She also notes out loud that in this life her fiancé's body is beautiful. She's killed him in the previous 9, and she's going to end it for good in this one. Diana advises the owner not to think that no one can touch him now. She says that resurrection pills are not a panacea, because they are not omnipotent. Therefore, Volter needs to level up as quickly as possible by strengthening his skills, so the heavens really won't be able to do anything against him. Zilla's joyful voice tells this lazy man to get up as quickly as possible. She says that she will not be able to accompany him because she has been summoned by a noble person. Hearing about the illness, the man asks how serious it is. The woman answers. Volter asks if her quack colleague has been called in along with the other doctors. She asks if he is jealous and says that he probably will be. He is famous. Then Volter decides to go with Scylla, thinking he can help them. The woman agrees, but asks to stop, because she needs to move out as soon as possible. Wood says he will generously reward anyone who can cure the chief's unknown ailment. Jacob can't figure out what's wrong, because all of the man's indicators are within normal limits. Volter immediately declares that he also wants to take part in the treatment of this man. Jacob shouts loudly that now they will definitely be able to deal with young Master Black. Wood, however, has a different opinion. He believes that any situation around Volter gets out of control. The man, meanwhile, asks why he was not informed about Wood's father's illness. The latter replies that he recently had a sharp headache, and the pain was unbearable. In confirmation of these words, a heartbreaking voice is heard behind the door, testifying to pain. Wood flies into the room calling for his father, and is left speechless by what he sees. Ford is told to stop, but he retorts, saying that the wind of filth has already penetrated the man's brain. It is necessary to remove it with silver needles. Otherwise the head of the Lack family will come to an end. Jacob warns the young master to be careful, telling him about a recent incident. Wood orders the charlatan to be thrown out of his house, perplexed as to how he dares to show up uninvited. Fort says with resentment that these people cannot distinguish between good and bad. He says that he will leave peacefully if he is not touched, and asks not to pull the needle out of his forehead. Fort tells Scylla that Volter is not a good person, and she asks him not to worry about it. The man believes that the time will come when he will be begged to help get rid of this disease. Jacob asks not to pay attention to these words, because this charlatan is fooling people. Meanwhile, the patient screams, shouting that his head is splitting. Scylla asks for help in restraining the man so that she can inject him with a sedative. But he rudely says that he doesn't need a sedative, ordering him to simply ease the pain. Volter asks the woman in a caring voice to leave this task to him. The man says that Fort had better calm down, otherwise he himself will deal with this would-be advisor. He thinks that although this trick is rather clumsy, it is quite effective. It seems to Volter that doctors of traditional medicine do this in every second novel. He understands that the needle is needed for the patient's temporary peace of mind. It is like a dam. Wood asks if he should ask Fort to come back to help his father. The man finds this suspicious and asks when the charlatan arrived in Ginger. Zilla answers. Then Volter asks about the beginning of the illness of the head of the Lacks. The dates are close. Wood also puts 2 and 2 together, realizing that the suspicion is indeed suspicious. Volter concludes by saying that this is exactly what everyone present thought. Zilla and Wood both ask in unison what he means, what they should have thought about. The interlocutor answers them that this combination is the combination of the auxiliary with the main needle. It was used by charlatans, who used the first needle to induce pain and the second to dull it, extorting money. Volter is amazed that his interlocutors have never heard of this. He laughs at them to himself, because he just came up with this combination himself. Wood expresses concerns, and Volter says he knows someone who can cure the man. He says that the head of the central hospital, Zilla Asterism, can do this, but she is at a loss. The man asks the woman to relax, saying that he will help her express herself. Scylla asks to give the man pain medication while she develops a treatment plan. The man asks to leave the rest to him, mentally recalling the words of his competitor. He is going to use the 9 dragons' true energy to purify the sick person. It turns out to be very easy, but Volter becomes interested in what is causing the disease. Diana comes to the rescue, saying that the cause lies in space-time turbulence. To put it simply, someone nearby has reincarnated. The man is puzzled when he hears something like this, but he quickly comes to his senses, believing that this someone could be the proud son of heaven. The man allows Zilla to pull out the needle, and the woman obeys him without question. As soon as this happens, the man starts screaming again, suffering from a headache. His son is confused, stating that he has had another seizure. Amid the patient's cries, those present try to understand what is the best thing to do now. However, the patient says that everything is fine now. He just got used to screaming in recent days. Volter turns to the younger heir, reminding him that Fort got away unpunished. He asks if people will laugh at his family if they deal with a commoner, but the man still gives the order to find this charlatan and break all his limbs. Noticing his woman's uncertainty, Volter asks what's wrong with her. It comes as a surprise to Tsilla that her senior colleague turned out to be a self-serving jerk. The man notes that the modern world is ruled by money, and everyone is chasing profit. Wood promises that he will not allow the bastard who has thrown aside medical ethics to live in clover. He declares his firm intention to destroy his life at any cost. Meanwhile, those sent for Fort order him to stop and not even think about offering resistance. The man is looking forward to having people kneel before him and beg for forgiveness. And he turns out to be completely unprepared for the subsequent actions of Lakov's personal security. Due to deep confusion, he is barely able to protect himself from the blows raining down on him. The unfortunate man is informed that the young gentleman has given the order to break his limbs. And when one of the men is ready to carry out the order, Fort, with all his might, asks to stop. The bat is already very close, and the man is preparing for pain, but a new voice tells the tormentors to leave. Having kicked one of the enemies away, the woman steps forward, raising her voice. Elena notices that there were brave men who dared to go against her man. Sonia asks her opponent why someone like her is opposing their family. Elena smirks, asking since when daughters-in-law can lead. Wood supports Sonia. The blonde becomes even more interested and asks to let Fort go. He is against this. Wood is angry, believing that this charlatan, on top of everything else, also does not know how to repent. Before he can swing the bat, Elena cuts it into several pieces. She retorts, saying that the one who will die now will be Wood himself. And he thinks about it. He believed that after reincarnation he would be able to avoid the destruction of his family, but it seems he was wrong. But the next moment something rushes past, knocking the blade out of the girl's hand. She tenses up, realizing that the weapon was knocked out with an ordinary sheet of paper. Only craftsmen are capable of this. She wonders who could pull off something like this, and Volter gives himself away with a grin and a sneer. Elena asks who he is, and how he dares to interfere in the affairs of her organization. Volter presents himself as arrogantly as he facilitated this dialogue. Elena says that she doesn't know him, since they didn't drink together. The man starts coughing. Fort tells his friend that this is the same person who ruined his reputation. Volter asks how this is possible, recalling the events he himself has distorted. He ends his accusations by saying that he considers his opponent to be simply incompetent. The man flares up, calling his opponent a liar, the likes of which you would have to look for. He is going to demonstrate the power of his 13 Needles Demon Gate. A fight breaks out between them again, causing the onlookers to cheer. The attack doesn't work on Volter. He easily deflects each of the needles. Wood doesn't want to believe it. He's torn by the question of who the enemy is with such technology. But his techniques don't end there, and the man decides to move on to the second most powerful one. He uses Pear Petal Needle Storm during bloom time. Fort becomes curious to see what the enemy will do now. He chuckles, asking if the man really thinks he won't be able to dodge. Fort almost screams in surprise when Volter disappears from sight. Elena is also surprised by this disappearance technique and tries to understand it. Volter appears the very next moment, asking if Fort was looking for him. The man is amazed by the number of his own reputation points, because there are more of them. Sally tells the audience that she doesn't understand what her boss did. Reactions increase points. While they are busy discussing their hero, Elena jumps up. She says that if Volter wants to get to the fort, he needs to go through her first. The opponent notes that the young lady is ready to tear and throw for this man. Using a long-range and powerful technique, the blonde comments on her actions. Volter uses the opposite, saying that he is ready to do it as many times as necessary. Elena says that getting close to her is not as easy as he thinks. Volter praises the skill of changing the hand holding the knife behind the back, considering it excellent. And allowing the girl to make the attack, he says that now it's his turn. The man uses the 36 Blood Lotus flying daggers. Squeezing the handle tighter, Elena is well aware that her opponent is a natural-born master. But she still thinks that he lacks the drive to compete with her. Volter asks who lacks the drive, his voice sending shivers down your spine. The man notes that it seems the girl has not learned the lesson taught to Fort. Elena allows the enemy to do whatever he wants with her, because she lost. The disposition reaches the level of obedience. The girl is frightened. The man is very surprised that the system recorded such changes. He considers obedience better than respect, so he takes appropriate action. Elena asks why do this, because they could have simply killed him without shame. Volter replies that as she said, he did what he wanted. Elena is angry, believing that a fighter can be killed, but not humiliated in this way. Volter says that the next time they see each other, he will kiss her again. Scylla is already starting to get used to this. All she feels is bewilderment. Elena continues the interrogation, noting that she did not allow him to kiss her. Fort is told to hold on, but he says that he sees no other way out but to forgive. Elena says that she can turn a blind eye to this, but she will take her savior with her. Otherwise, they will have to fight to the death for real. Fort reflects that he never thought he would ever rely on a woman. The flow of thoughts is abruptly interrupted when the man notices something that attracts his attention. He attracts Sonia's attention to himself, assuming that she is the one Elena was looking for. After all, he conducted a pulse diagnosis using a thread, and the results were very close to the required values. Although Sonia remains silent, the expression on her face betrays the thought that she has been exposed. Wood is hopelessly thinking that he can't change anything no matter what happens. Fort turns to Elena, saying that Sonia is the one she was supposed to find. The blonde didn't expect that the cause of all her misfortunes would ever be so close. She can't believe she almost lost this girl, angry at herself. Elena rushes at Sonia with a war cry and advice not to be reborn in the shit family. Hearing the words about the curse on the existence of others, the girl comes to a realization. Sonia turns to Volter, reminding him of what they had agreed on the day before. The man defends her, saying that he admires Mrs. Shit's insight. He recalls how the girl approached him on the day of the auction, offering mutual benefit. There was no overt threat to her family, which led to thoughts of reincarnation. Elena asks why he cares about the death of this girl, to which the man playfully flirts. The blonde says that she must kill Sonia today, but Volter reminds her of Fort's pardon. He thinks that the girl has already become insolent and is not going to allow her to humiliate him like that. Elena addresses her cyclone, telling them to listen carefully to her command. The blonde orders her subordinates to help kill Sonia at any cost. Wood believes that they cannot stop these outstanding fighters. Zilla is worried about Volter. Sonia doesn't mind dying. The only thing that matters to her is the well-being of the lax. Volter points out that he hasn't even tried yet, so he shouldn't be written off. The girl doesn't understand why he protects her, because he is the richest master in ginger. The man says that it's simple, because the death of such a beautiful girl would be a waste. Meanwhile, the Cyclone Warriors shout out self-confident phrases at their opponent. They are about to strike the first blow when everyone present is ordered to stop. Elena's subordinates stand frozen in awe before the head of the underground, who has arrived in person. They greet him respectfully, expressing their respect in the most formal manner. One of the commentators knows this man by sight and is asked about his identity. He tells the story, supplementing it with the help of the Don's assistants, one of whom is named Will. And his partner Hiram, he is a descendant of the Cypress family. William asks Elena what she did here, but the girl doesn't seem to notice the man's mood. She rushes to her adopted father, saying that he appeared just in time. Volter is puzzled by the appeal, considering the generations of these two too different. William does not share his adopted daughter's enthusiasm, believing that she has become completely dissolute. The girl says she was carrying out a family mission, recalling the head's promise not to interfere. He remembers his words but does not recall that he allowed his grandson to be killed. Elena slows down her activity, thoughtfully repeating the word grandson after her adopted father. Hearing the affection of these two, the girl cannot hold back the question that is bursting out. Fort considers the patronage of such a person to be truly grandiose. Wood, unlike him, knew from the very beginning who the man's grandfather and great-grandfather were. Elena asks William to forgive her, saying that she did not know that Volter was his grandson. The old man speaks of the law, asking how the girl dared to raise a blade against her grandson. He throws a dagger to his adopted daughter, asking if it is worth reminding her of the law. Elena remembers him perfectly well. No reminders are needed. The fate of being expelled from the family awaits her. She fearlessly declares that she accepts the punishment of the 6 holes of the 3 daggers. Volter turns to his grandfather, saying that he got it all wrong. He says they were just fooling around and Grandpa got too excited. The old man is frightened when he sees his grandson's wound and anxiously offers to let him look. The man says it's just a scratch, but the grandfather thinks they're trying to trick him. In his mind, he praises his grandson for his endurance and is proud of him, because the bleeding is very severe. Volter, as an argument in his defense, recalls the scene with the kiss, the girl confirms. William says he doesn't believe it, asking the young people to kiss to dispel his doubts. For Volter, this request is nothing. He convinces the girl by reminding her of the 6 holes. Wood tries to get Fort to watch the couple's second kiss. The man asks to leave him alone and stop beating him up. Seeing his favor growing, Volter can't understand why the task hasn't appeared yet. The grandfather is satisfied, but says that the matter concerning the lax needs to be discussed with his grandson. He thinks they need to come to a compromise, and the girl says she understands this. Volter asks Elena not to worry, saying that he will settle everything, and both of them will be pleased. The man's charms have little effect on this girl. She says that she communicates with him because of William. Volter calls Elena a hottie, saying that's the kind of girl he likes. Sonia asks Wood if he saw a similar scene in a past life. He denies it. What the man heard about the blacks was completely different from what had happened in the past. William committed suicide to avoid involving the blacks in his affairs. But this sacrifice was in vain, and Chase did not leave this family alone. Sonia wonders if Elena took part in this, but her interlocutor answers in the negative. The girl asks if she could betray Volter, Wood doesn't know. Sonia believes that the man needs to be told about this, because he is now trapped because of them. Later, Volter clarifies that Chase destroyed his family, the Blacks, in the past. He is puzzled by the fact that Elena is very likely to be his accomplice. Sonia confirms this, warning that the interlocutor's mother should be careful. Something bad might happen to her in the coming days. Volter asks about the source of the information. Sonia shares that she can calculate the future using a certain technique. Volter asks to name which of the two of them has reincarnated in order to maintain a trusting relationship. Sonia asks the man how he managed to find out this. Volter begins to reason, dismissing the version with Elena and his interlocutor. Thus, he figures out Wood by asking him the appropriate question. He agrees, admitting that he has gone back 10 years. Wood shares a memory in which Cyclone passed to Elena after William's death. Later, the blonde went on a bloodbath, slaughtering the Luckies along with Sonia. By a stroke of luck, Voodoo and Phoebe managed to escape, but their journey was difficult. The man's death was caused by the fort, but when he opened his eyes, he returned to the past a decade. Wood himself doubts the veracity of all this, not hoping for understanding from his interlocutor. The system identifies the speaker as the proud son, and Volter has questions about the reward. A familiar voice is heard nearby, saying that this is because of the low title of the system's owner. If he had been taller, Volter would have completed the task and received the Great Prophecy as a reward. The man thinks, coming to the conclusion that he needs to speed up the promotion process. What worries Diana most are the 5 pride points, which gives rise to certain thoughts. Volter asks her not to worry, saying that they will find out everything after completing the task. The woman asks him not to touch her, as she is still angry. The man is amazed at the female nature. He asks clarifying questions about Fort, and Wood thinks they don't believe him. But he still confirms the words of his interlocutor and talks about the charlatan's skills in more detail. Fort is a natural-born womanizer, and one can only envy him. Volter wonders if Scylla is his concubine. They tell him that this woman killed herself by touching his coffin at the funeral. For a man, this comes as a complete surprise and is hard to believe. Meanwhile, he is told that his mother called and asked what he wants for dinner. Scylla says she suggested the woman cook her son's favorite dishes. She asks what happened, confused by the man's sudden outburst of feelings. He promises to treat Zilla well, and she speaks directly about her embarrassment. Volter says that in this life he will never dare to offend her. The woman responds to this by saying that she simply wants to be with him always. Wood notes that Volter sometimes goes a bit overboard, especially now, when the loners are watching him. Sonia believes that he is honest. Wood remembers that in his past life, he was unable to protect her, and tries to make a promise. Sonia reminds her interlocutor that the crisis in their lives has not yet gone away. It seems to Voodoo that after the girl and Volter made a deal, she became colder towards him. The said one suddenly says that he will help them deal with Elena, but only if Lucky obeys him, and Wood kneels before him, swearing allegiance. The man is outraged by the very thought of this, because they are both heirs to great families. Volter says that he will help his interlocutor, since he cannot assess what is happening sensibly. Julia, who entered the hall, asks if she did it at the wrong time. Volter has a different view on this matter. He says that everything is exactly the opposite. Seeing George smiling happily and praising his boss, Wood is taken aback. Volter explains the situation to him, telling him what awaits him if he disobeys. The man asks not to take this as a threat, saying that this is normal. George says his family doesn't agree with leaving the messed up Lux alone. Julia asks Wood if he will be able to sleep soundly after this. He surrenders, swearing allegiance to Volter and promising never to betray him. The system immediately notifies the owner when the retrospective skill is acquired. But due to the low loyalty rate, Heaven's pride points cannot be obtained. Volter asks Wood not to be upset, saying that the lax affairs are now his problem. He invites Sonia to go to his home, promising better protection. The man crouches in her ear, beginning to talk about her wisdom and their possible mutual benefit. Wood is jealous, deep down fearing that the girl will choose Volter instead of him. And she chooses, raising even more questions than before. Volter promises to take care of this girl and Lucky. Voodoo just needs to be a prophet. The first thing the man asks him to do is name the numbers of the winning lottery tickets. Volter asks if his interlocutor doesn't like horse racing and asks about the black horse. There is a very sad memory associated with this, in which Wood's horse died. Julia asks him about the industries that will thrive in the future. Wood speculates that Volter did not tell others about his reincarnation to avoid trouble. He answers out loud a woman's question about the industries that will prevail in the future. Volter doesn't like the detailed story. He asks to speak closer to the point. Wood pauses right where he left off and switches to the foundry shaft. Volter's head starts to hurt just thinking about it. But he says those present will be responsible for domestic mines. He himself plans to take control of foreign ones, taking half of the total income for himself. The man asks his henchman who is for it, and of course the answer is unanimous and positive. Wood's loyalty drops to 0, He doesn't like that Volter has deprived everyone excessively. The man who noticed this considers it simpler not to submit, but to kill. Sonia asks Volter to forgive Wood, saying that they agree too. The man says that he will later ask Zilla to choose a room for her closer to him for efficiency. George suggests that Wood accept his fate, and he smiles colorlessly. Volter believes he has no choice but to get involved in the affairs of the Luck family. Sonia mentally apologizes to Wood, fully understanding how things really are. The girl believes that the tragedy can only be prevented if she leaves Lockoff, and once again she apologizes to Wood mentally, also asking him to take care of himself. An unsuspecting Volter is hit with a slingshot, causing him to scream and curse. He orders that the brat who did this be brought to him immediately. Forrest immediately takes off, unquestioningly confirming his master's whim. Phoebe tells him to let go, but the guy says it was disrespectful to his boss. Volter scolds the little one, and he says that he simply had to avenge his brother and sister. The man says that first he must become strong enough to take revenge. Sonia rightly points out that Phoebe is just a child, but Volter disagrees. Diana tells the owner to kill the child. The man wonders what this is connected with. The woman says the system stopped working as soon as he showed up. She has a bad feeling about this. Volter is thinking about it seriously. This boy can become a very strong, proud son of heaven in 10 years. Diana stands her ground, adding that she senses a royal spirit in this brat. Sonia begs to let the child go, and he asks the girl not to do this, confident in himself. Volter becomes increasingly convinced of his suspicions that Phoebe is the son of heaven. Although at first glance this guy seems like an ordinary rascal, everything is much deeper. Volter regards Phoebe as a fat sheep, whose wool is enough to promote her to the next level. The man asks Sonia not to be afraid, saying that he was just joking about this child. The girl thinks that the rumors about this man may be ordinary prejudices. Dana angrily asks why Volter did nothing. She does not believe in his virtue. The man thinks that he has his own plans for Phoebe, and his talent is not destined to be revealed. The woman makes Volter promise to reach a new level as soon as possible. He agrees, confident that this will happen within a week. The system only returns to normal when they drive a decent distance away from Phoebe. Dina suggests killing Wood, since he is the one who gives the points needed for promotion. Volter does not consider this decision rational, because the consequences could be disastrous. Sonia is very attached to Voodoo. Her feelings will be difficult to shake. This is a serious problem. Diana asks what the man is going to do then. Volter offers to complete a task that will increase the girl's disposition level. Diana doubts the owner's abilities, believing that a week will not be enough. She then suggests completing tasks with Scylla and Julia, but there are too few points. The woman suggests looking at the tasks again, having calculated the points correctly. The man is convinced of the changes, but considers this a risk. Women are unpredictable. Then another thought hits him, according to which Volter's mother will die tomorrow. The man tenses, internally fearing that Chase might have already been released from prison. If so, then time is of the essence, and Volter gives his bodyguard the order to turn around. The guy confirms this, heading at high speed towards the Black family estate. Volter keeps repeating in his head the phrase that they simply have to make it in time. A little later, the young master is respectfully greeted by a servant. Diana is flattered that they listen to her, but he has a completely different plan. The woman asks why the owner always goes against her. Is she really not good enough? The man says that everything is not so, and he really thinks she is very good. Diana notices that his words often conflict with his actions. Volter agrees to tell the woman the reason for this discrepancy. Suzette is too proud. She is incredibly difficult to tame. She hates men. Julia is cold and calculating. He can't increase loyalty yet. He can only wait. The man says that if he hadn't met Elena then, he would have abandoned her long ago. Diana gets satisfaction from this answer. She did not expect anything else from her master. They are happy for Volter, saying that he finally remembered his old mother and decided to visit her. Rushing towards Samantha Dragon, the man says that she is not old at all. He openly fawns, saying that his mother is young and beautiful as at 18. The woman says that she is very pleased to hear such things from her son, and expresses her love. Volter speaks to Samantha mentally, promising that he will not let her die. Another person who approached him thought that the man was getting worse every time. Erwin tells his son to come into his office, arguing that they need to have a serious talk. Samantha asks her husband if he is really going to scold and beat her son. She invites her son to tell her about such things, promising to pass everything on to his grandfather. The man tells Volter to sit down and tell everything as it is. He clarifies about the rumors and whether his father is going to criticize and warn him. Erwin tells his son to sit down and sit straight in front of his elders, showing his respect. Volter suggests that this is all connected to low blood pressure. Erwin asks if his son is going to explain the flashy title of this issue to him. Volter suggests that his father also enjoys reading gossip. He is asked to be more serious, and the man admits to having an affair, but he is not held accountable. Erwin doesn't think so. He's nervous about the upcoming meeting with the whites at the Council of Elders. Volter expresses hope that his father will not interfere in his personal life. Hearing his further words, Erwin becomes furious, stunned by the lack of morality. He orders Volter to get out of his office immediately, shouting angrily. The man ends his angry tirade by saying that he no longer has a son. Erwin is trying to understand why he was sent such a wayward offspring. He is ashamed in front of his ancestors, because the genes of a great family were interrupted by this scumbag. Samantha asks if his father hit him, to which Volter replies that he was angry. The woman asks her son not to worry about it, considering the main thing that he was not beaten. But what really interests her is something else, who Volter takes as a wife. Samantha likes Scylla. She thinks she is a good and always obedient girl. The woman finds Sonia beautiful, like a goddess of water, already imagining her grandchildren. Julia has mixed opinions, but generally good ones, and Samantha thinks Sally is sweet. The woman herself cannot make a choice, considering this task incredibly difficult. Volter says he makes the choice himself, and he wants each of these women. Samantha takes these words as a joke, but her son tells her that he is actually serious. But Volter is going to talk about business, and the woman is pleased with his care and attentiveness. The man states that he is going on a business trip with his mother. Later, he remarks on how grand the ceremony to welcome Samantha was. Seeing his target approaching the car, the blonde presses the detonator button, completing the task. Satisfied with his success, he leaves, smiling and remembering what this guy wanted. Pete says that he alone was quite enough. No way to compete with the Dragon King. But he cries out in fear, instinctively asking if Volter shouldn't have exploded. The man says that otherwise he would not have been able to expose the identity of his mother's killer. Volter compliments Suzette, considering her a first-class strategist. He asks the girl for details again, and she corrects herself by saying that Chase is her ex. Pete also addresses Suzette, saying that they don't kill people indiscriminately, the target is Volter. The latter says that he can't stand liars, because the driver and translator are innocent people. Pete starts to make excuses, but Volter tells him to shut his filthy mouth right now. The blonde says that he can't be killed with an ordinary knife. He is clearly underestimated. He intends to complete the task assigned to him in any way possible. His voice fades away on the unfinished phrase, accompanied by a piercing, thunderous shot. Forrest asks with a grin if one usually doesn't have to be careful. He knows for sure that before committing a murder, one should not chatter, and especially not pose. Volter understands why Chase is only awarded 1 point. Subordinates also receive points. Forrest asks about their next steps. His boss is going to contact Sonia. The girl recalls that Chase still has 2 generals left, giving them a brief description. Forrest says his comrades in arms can help them escape. Sonia suggests that their opponents will be blinded by hatred over the loss of Pete. It would be best to stay in the hotel and pretend that they don't know about their trick. This place is not a hotel at all, but the palace of the Dragon King. Volter suggests that Chase's influence must be so great that he was able to turn the administration against him. Sonia admits that she didn't think their opponents were capable of something like this. Suzette asks with displeasure if she wasn't taken in to buy the foundry mines. She is indignant about the fact that Chase's people are here. She is embarrassed by the realization of this. Volter says the mines will certainly be acquired, but something else is important now. The girl's affection is declining and she says she doesn't want to act as a man's pawn. Noticing the hidden camera, the latter moves on to more decisive action. Suzette's affection drops another 10 and she turns away from Volter in disgust. The man is not at all embarrassed by this. On the contrary, he makes his game even more piquant. He says that it seems that Suzette does not yet fully understand this whole situation. The girl curses herself for trusting her, realizing that this man has always been like this. Volter says that now she is his, and should not argue with him anymore. The girl's disposition suddenly increases, jumping above the mark that was there before. Volter says that this time he will get away with a small punishment, but not next time. Chase, who saw everything perfectly, becomes furious because his woman was touched. He orders his minions to bring Volter to him, intending to finish him off with his own hands. When the tyrant bursts into the room, the man feigns bewilderment, asking a surprised question. Bartholomew buys in, and Volter continues to play, calling this attack a surprise. He says that there is no point in shouting because the guards have been replaced by their people. Bartholomew says that he will take Volter to the Dragon King. The man feigns surprise. The interlocutor notes that he never imagined that anyone could bring such a thing upon themselves. Volter asks if he heard correctly, and Bartholomew dares to mock him. He can't believe that the man continues to be insolent even on the brink of death. Volter says that this is enough, which provokes an involuntary question from his opponent. And the very next moment this is followed by a heartbreaking cry of surprise. And not only Bartholomew, the area is filled with similar exclamations in a variety of ways. The tyrant cannot understand how this is possible, since he tied Volter's hands with his own hands. The man says that people change overnight, and he is no longer the same person who was killed. Volter says that now it's up to Forrest, who, while accepting the order, mentally worries about the boss. The guy apologizes before taking the weapon, and a point is awarded for Bartholomew's death. The man tells his subordinates to wait outside no matter what happens, and they agree. Bartholomew informs the Dragon King that Volter is still just as weak as ever. Chase's gaze softens at the sight of Suzette. He calls her tenderly, and she responds. She says that Volter is now the boss of the Gingers and cannot be killed. The interlocutor says that he can easily cover the cost of this issue. But Volter must die today. It will happen one way or another. Bartholomew volunteers to riddle the degenerate with holes, and his master allows him to do so. Pointing a gun at a completely different person, Forrest shoots, commanding him to die. Tristan asks the tyrant what he is doing, warning his master of a sudden attack. Chase's last loyal comrade warns him that he is not facing a tyrant. Forrest ends the performance by confirming these words and voicing his true name. Volter tells his subordinate to stop chattering and to kill the enemy instead. Chase is surprised, not expecting that his opponent is familiar with martial arts. Jumping through the nearest window, the man elicits a disgruntled cry from his opponent. Volter has no intention of letting him go, frantically wanting to immediately catch up and kill him. Tristan turns out to still be alive, buying his master time and telling him to run away. The system awards a point for successfully eliminating the last Dragon King general. Chase is furious and blames himself for not having foreseen this turn of events. People run up to the Dragon King with concerned questions, and he orders them to listen to him. The man furiously shouts out an order to kill Volter at any cost. Chase's men exchange information, naming where the target was last seen. They're going to go up to their boss's office and take out Volter while he's still hot on their trail. One of the subordinates asks Chase what they should do with his daughter-in-law. The man allows the squad to go ahead and kill her, wanting to let go of the obsessive feelings. Forrest says that everyone has scattered and notes that they could be waiting anywhere. Volter has a plan, and he buys all the things he needs to implement it from the store. After this, the man asks everyone to put on bulletproof vests made of the new material. Suzette is asked why she married the Dragon King. She says that her family was afraid that she would transfer everything to her husband. The marriage was fictitious. Sonia suggests that despite his power, he is a disgusting person. She is interested in her interlocutor's answer to the question of whether Volter would propose marriage to her. Suzette's embarrassment causes a deathly silence to reign in the room for a while. Sonia thinks the brunette is truly beautiful, and she compliments her interlocutor in return. Forrest tells the girls to keep up, noting that they might be caught up soon. Very close by, the voices of the enemy are heard giving the order to kill the fugitives. But the next moment comes as a surprise to them, causing Forrest to be delighted. The bodyguard compliments his boss without hesitation and calls him invincible. Forrest can't stop admiring this deadly beauty, shocked to the depths of his soul. Meanwhile, they are found and the rest of their comrades are notified. Volter not only protects his people, but also redirects enemy attacks. He uses one of his favorite techniques for this, enjoying the screams of his enemies. Suzette suggests checking Volter's wound as soon as possible, but it is not there. The man says that this suit is special. It is invulnerable to knives and firearms. Watching Volter's skillful maneuvers, Sonia cannot help but mentally admire him. She thinks he's very cool, carefully watching every move the man makes. Forrest is delighted to note that his boss has become even stronger. Suzette, too, is forced to acknowledge Volter's extraordinary nature, and much becomes clear to her. Letting the girls go first, the men leave the building after them. Volter is glad that they got out. Suzette shares his feelings. Sonia asks not to touch her for now, since any movement from intense running is painful. Volter advises her to take a rest, assuring her that after some time everything will pass. The voice coming from behind Sonia addresses her and causes unpleasant goosebumps. Elena says that the girl brings only misfortune, wanting to kill her target. Putting himself in harm's way, Volter asks Sonia to be careful. The system reports serious damage, asking to avoid impacts until the suit is fully repaired. Sonia asks the man why he is acting so recklessly. He puts on a brave face. Elena hisses in displeasure at Volter, noticing that he's ruining everything again. Sonia continues the interrogation, admitting that she feels awkward about such concern. The blonde is irritated by this and is going to kill both lovebirds. Several shots ring out, and along with them, a cry of sympathy for Elena cuts through the air. Chase warns his subordinates that he will finish off Volter with his own hands. He believes that no one will dare to stop him from taking sweet revenge at this moment. For killing Elena and destroying his pride points, Volter plans to punish Chase. The same one is going to kill his opponent, declaring this openly once again. Additional shots cause the legendary bird's battlesuit to take more damage. The system reports that its protective effect is ending. The Dragon King declares that the end has come for Volter Black, intending to kill him. But as soon as he pulls the trigger, nothing happens. The bullets are gone. Volter remarks that now it is his turn to demonstrate his abilities. It only takes one swing of the blade for Chase to fall to the ground, and the girls express concern. Forrest reports that Elena is still alive, and Volter orders them to urgently find the nearest hospital. They can't go to the hospital because their situation is rather uncertain, but there is a clinic nearby, although the doctor says it is unlikely that Elena can be saved. Volter promises to give any amount in exchange for saving the girl's life, but in vain. Forrest asks him not to make a spectacle of himself because recklessness will not solve anything. The man is convinced and agrees, confirming that he needs to cool down. Suzette is amazed at how carefully Volter treats the girls. Sonia has her own vision. The man tells those present to return tomorrow and to leave now. Forrest agrees, asking the boss not to lose heart and take care of himself. But he answers sparingly. The man is going to undergo an operation using modern and traditional medicine. To significantly increase success, he uses needles to normalize the pulse. The girl says that she didn't think that Volter could also operate. He doesn't look like a rich kid at all. The man asks her to remain silent, to conserve her strength, because Elena has lost too much blood. The blonde doesn't listen, believing that you can't escape fate, but she's even glad to die like this. Volter suggests discussing their relationship with Sonia after the girl wakes up. Elena screams, believing that she has jinxed the man and he has dropped the mask of a decent person. She asks him if he is really putting up with all this just because she is dying. Elena is interested in Volter's opinion. If she just teases him, he won't mind at all. She asks if he really decided to take advantage of her while she was still warm. The answer is no. Volter informs his patient that he has removed all the bullet parts from her. The man notices that the blonde has gone into hemorrhagic shock and needs to have her blood replenished. Elena is surprised that she is still alive. She thought that having lost so much blood she would not survive. The girl understands the reason and is confused by such a gesture of kindness. The blonde asks Volter to sleep. He opens his eyes with difficulty, turning towards the voice. He notices that the girl's affection level has risen to 95, and she admires the fact that this man fought for her life all night. Volter becomes surprisingly active, repeating his interlocutor's question. The girl asks him to stop, but he only jokes it off, which causes even more embarrassment. Elena asks him not to come closer, warning that otherwise she is going to harm the man. Volter repeats the blonde's own words in a languid voice, and knocking the knife out of the girl's hands despite her protests, he does what he wants. Elena mentally calls him a fool, scolding him for not even letting her prepare. The girl asks the man to be more gentle with her, because it is her first time, and besides, she has wounds. Elena's sympathy level reaches 100. Volter receives his 5 pride points. The head of the Monastery of Bells, Sky Spheral, performs daily meditation. A strange premonition distracts him from such an important matter, forcing him to open his eyes. This can only mean one thing. An unclean spirit has appeared to plunge the world into chaos. The abbot fears that the owner of this sinister force will break through here to gain power. He tries to understand where such an aura could come from, but stops mid-sentence. Sky can't believe that even he can't suppress the evil aura of this evil spirit. The abbot asks his disciple to descend from the mountain to engage in battle with evil spirits. Darwin humbly accepts his fate, because he was born for this noble purpose. Sky gives the student instructions, reminding him of the prohibitions, and he confirms what he said, expressing understanding. The abbot also reminds us of the destructive power of beauty, which is dangerous even to touch. The young man agrees with this as well, saying that he should not forget about it. Hearing the words that beauty is a great sin, Darwin cannot believe his eyes. Sky says that as a mentor, he will have to isolate himself from the outside world. But Darwin, since he is still young, should not undertake such actions. The guy remembers the words about what will be the reward for successfully overcoming all difficulties. Suzette notices that Elena's wounds have healed, but she has apparently gone mad, smiling incessantly. Sonia also doesn't understand what's funny, and Volter tells the girls to leave the blonde alone. She no longer poses any harm, and the man suggests discussing everything else upon returning home. Suzette shares that there is one clue regarding the acquisition of lithium ore. Volter clarifies whether she means the inheritance of the Dragon King's palace. The interviewee agrees, saying that she could never have imagined that the palace owned assets worth billions. Sonia notices that Suzette is now the richest girl in their country. Volter asks what all this has to do with lithium ore. The brunette explains. The Dragon King's palace owns half of the Lithium Ore Alliance's shares. Volter does not see this as a problem, considering it necessary to simply inherit this palace. Suzette asks how she can get the inheritance since Chase died yesterday. Volter states that the girl made the right choice and explains. The brunette is thinking in the right direction. Her right to property does not mean the possibility of inheritance. If a powerful figure like Chase were to emerge, the Dragon King's palace would collapse immediately. Forrest confirms the boss's words, saying that he too knows about the actions of the king's palace. The confused girl asks Volter for help what she should do in this case. The man advises her to pay the state, which causes general bewilderment. Michelle says these 3 largest lithium ores are the girl's reward. The commander says she is very grateful, and the relevant authorities will not forget Suzette's services. The brunette is amazed by the amount, not believing that she was able to get these billions for the amulets. Michael thanks Volter for acting as a mediator in this matter. The man asks to forget about the past and treat him better in the future. The interlocutor agrees, saying goodbye to Volter until the next meeting. Forrest asks why the boss didn't tell about Chase. He says he has a plan. The man thinks that Michelle might have a large number of heavenly pride points. It's not just that he's indulging her now, carefully laying the groundwork for a more favorable moment. Suzette says that these lithium ores belong to him, but Volter denies this statement. For him, money is just pieces of paper. He prefers to have fun without thinking about the details. Suzette tries to understand why Volter took a mistress if he doesn't need money. The girl can't get her head around it, but she really wants to understand her boss. The man who is waving his fists now is the main shareholder of the Lithium Ore Alliance. Every week on this beach he demonstrates his strength. He has never had an equal. Oswald notes that this man is the 19th loser today. He invites others to fight him, promising a very generous reward if they win. A stranger approaches him, considering the reward too insignificant and uninteresting. Oswald grins, asking if he'll challenge him if he raises the bet to 100 million. Volter says that he himself wouldn't dare, but his bodyguard would be able to beat the crap out of the enemy. Oswald agrees, upping the ante and saying he's willing to beat his opponents until they beg for mercy. Unlike his opponent, Forrest doesn't utter a single word as he rushes into battle. Oswald, praising himself, says that his opponents can only wag their tongues. As Forrest clashes fists with the blonde, he mentally notes the truly impressive strength. Volter also notices this, assuming that the bodyguard will not be able to match the enemy in strength. One of the spectators encourages others to join him in admiring Oswald's hurricane punch. No one has ever been able to withstand a wave like that before, but Forrest does it. Not only that, the guy also finds a hole in the opponent's defense. Forrest manages to take a draw, but he himself understands that it was all thanks to the pill given by Volter. Oswald is seriously furious even with this situation. No one has ever been at this level before. Volter recalls the conditions of this fight, wanting to drag the blonde into the dirt. He mocks the man dubbed the King of Boxing, calling all these rumors bullshit. Oswald says he has plenty of money, but he hasn't had enough fun yet. And the shareholder wants to fight with Volter, but he says that he doesn't know how to fight. The boxer says that the conditions can be absolutely anything, because he is confident of his victory. Volter asks for shareholder rights in the Lithium Ore Alliance if he wins. The blonde agrees immediately, giving his word, because he believes that his opponent cannot defeat him. This is all that Volter needed, and he tells his opponent so. The man uses the Rising Dragon Fist as his first strike, causing a roar of delight. Oswald calls Volter a scumbag who only pretends to be weak. He asks if his opponent would have been able to win if he hadn't done this. He thinks for a moment, and the next moment admits that he cannot withstand such a blow. Volter notes that if he had put more force into the blow, it could have been fatal for his opponent. The blonde admits that his share in the alliance is not very large, and the main problem is the princess. Volter graciously hands his former enemy a pill to heal his wounds. The effect is felt as soon as the blonde accepts it, filling with a mysterious power. Volter asks to be taken to the princess, and his interlocutor fulfills his request without any problems. Oswald warns about the importance of following the rules for conducting a search in this place. He assures his new friends that everything will be fine, as he is on good terms with the princess. Volter asks if the man is absolutely sure, voicing Forrest's unspoken question. The princess asks Oswald not to blame her for such a reception, all because these people killed Chase. The girl catches Forrest's fancy, and he compliments her beauty out loud. Volter notices this and is going to help his friend as a good comrade. Oswald says that his new friend is very cool, but the princess does not share her subordinate's enthusiasm. And Volter doesn't agree with the girl. He would argue about replacing Chase. Calling the man a bastard, the princess declares that she will finish him off right now. But the next moment her head starts to spin, as if there was something there. Volter says that he is her father, scolding the girl for having fun all day long. The princess believes him, but asks why he killed Chase, and the interlocutor is shocked by his disrespectful attitude. The man convinces the girl that she loves Forrest, but she never liked Chase. While Volter lists the romantic encounters they had, the princess shifts her gaze. The trick works, and the princess calls Forrest the love of her life. The bodyguard mentally addresses Volter, asking him to have mercy on him. But not because he was offended. It was just that it was all too unexpected for him. Forrest is worried about the changes being too dramatic, but Volter reassures him. Whether the guy will win Ellen's heart will soon depend only on him. The magic effect is short-lived. Taking the signed contract, Volter invites Forrest to stay longer as a guest of the sweet princess. The guy takes his friend's warning literally, confessing his love at first sight to Elin. The current that Forrest felt turns out to be real. Volter promises to teach the bodyguard the techniques. A guy asks his friend to take care of himself, and he reciprocates. Oswald compliments Volter on his incredible hypnotic abilities. The man believes that outsiders should not know about such things. He programs the blonde to make Forrest and Elin fall in love at first sight, and Oswald and Volter were witnesses to this, and nothing else happened. The girls are wondering where young Mr. Black's bodyguard has gone. Volter says that Forrest is currently having a good time with a pretty lady. Suzette and Sonia find Elena's frivolous giggles and words about debauchery inadequate. Later, Volter and the blonde return home, the man expressing joy about this. Suzette goes over in her mind the accomplishments they have achieved thanks to this trip. Sonia believes that Volter used his womanizer's tricks to achieve this. Fort's voice can be heard nearby, actively attracting Elena's attention. The blonde asks Volter to understand her correctly, justifying himself by saying that the man saved her. The man lets her go, saying that he understands everything perfectly. Elena asks Fort not to be so affectionate with her, fearing that Volter will misunderstand everything. The aforementioned one calls the blonde over. His opponent doesn't believe that she will come. He is shocked by her behavior, because Fort was hoping that Elena would slap this womanizer. The couple discusses home cooking, which they will definitely ask the cook to prepare. Fort wonders how his sweet Elena could have changed so dramatically in just a few days. Volter thinks that now is the best time to show his talent. Elena asks the man to promise that he will not harm Fort, because she considers him good. Volter says he will do whatever she wishes, but the gratitude must be proportionate. For such a service, Elena promises to fulfill any request of the man. Later, she expresses confusion about why she would come to her own territory, fearing her father. Volter says that this kind of thing turns him on incredibly. George asks Fort not to be upset because of the frivolous lady, reminding him of their plan. The blonde can't wait to get drunk with his brother in misfortune, who thinks about the death of his offender. Fort is offered another drink, calling him handsome. The man says that he must maintain moral purity and not do whatever he wants. One of the ladies calls her interlocutor a prude, asking if this can really be called purity. Fort gives in, thinking there's nothing wrong with relaxing a little. Later, they burst into the room, intending to search it and demanding a passport. The confused man replies that they are all learning English together. They point fingers at Fort, clearly recognizing him as that same skilled doctor. At the same time, there is a rumor that the man is driving people to their graves with his treatment. Fort asks those around him not to take pictures, imagining what will happen after it is made public. He is called a fraud and a charlatan, as well as a man who does not care about the lives of others. Elena says that she couldn't even imagine that Fort would turn out to be such a person. Volter replies that he understands him as a man and notes the weak character of the enemy. Gasping from the jolt, Elena says that she thinks the man is a really good guy. The system detects that the Fort's reputation has been damaged, making it impossible to capture pride points. The young man sitting opposite says that the interlocutor's spot between the eyebrows has become black. He thinks that someone is plotting against him behind his back, wondering if this is a nuisance. The interlocutor says that the harmful energy has gotten too close. Fort is amazed at his abilities, asking if it is possible to predict the problems of today. Darwin says he went to the club not to get close to women, but to destroy demons. He admits that he did not expect to encounter a situation of this kind. Dana appears with words about granting the heavens pride points. Darwin picks up on this movement and concludes that things are bad. He tells Fort that his luck is waning and that it is all the work of an evil spirit. The guy tells the devil to go back where it came from. The man shudders. Diana screams, trying to resist the energy pulling her into the portal. She feels a burning discontent, finding herself in a completely different place. Volter jumps in surprise and asks what's wrong with her and if everything is okay. Elena answers for her interlocutor, saying that she feels so good that she can no longer hold back. Diana shares that she has found the reason why they were unable to obtain the glasses earlier. The man says he understands, suggesting they discuss everything properly in about an hour. Fort thanks Darwin for taking care of him today, and he responds very politely. The interlocutor explains that the person who rescued them today was Fitzgerald Hawes. The man in question greets the man who had previously cured him of his illness and the stranger. Darwin does not remain in debt, responding to the Reverend's greeting no less good-naturedly. While he believes his mentor is good, Fitzgerald admits to having recently encountered a problem. Darwin begins to talk about the life of his interlocutor, fishing out astonishing facts from the past. No less surprised, Fort assures his acquaintance that he said nothing to his new acquaintance. Addressing Darwin as a heavenly mentor, the man asks him to help him. He assures his interlocutor that this is nothing special, and he will definitely help. Fitzgerald warmly thanks both him and the wonderful doctor who became their connecting thread. Volter asks the secretary to make certain inquiries as soon as possible. Turning to her interlocutor, the woman declares that she has found out everything. Miranda thinks of Volter as a scumbag who's once again seized upon a silly girl. Out loud, the woman shares information about who freed Fort, as well as information about Darwin. Diana says the latter played a dirty trick on her, and Volter makes a guess about him. The blonde notes that heavenly mentors may not be as simple as they seem. Volter is not afraid of this. He is confident that he can stand up to him, since he has leveled up. The man invites his secretary to eat at his place, asking the maid to cook something tasty. Miranda agrees, saying she loves Goodlike's maid's syrup-soaked swallow nests. Suzette, who notices them, concludes that there can be no romance between these two. She believes that Volter is being insincere with her by forcing Miranda to spy on the brunette. She experiences cognitive dissonance. Her sympathy level jumps back and forth, and Suzette is in pain. Returning to the villa by the coast, Volter informs everyone of his arrival. Scylla wonders why her beloved has rarely appeared at home and whether Sally has come. The girl suggests that Miranda ask Volter to give her an easier job, but she refuses. The woman says her boss trusts Suzette too much and allows her to manage assets. Scylla sympathizes with the brunette, considering the murder of her husband to be great bad luck. Miranda continues her discussion of Suzette, saying that she considers herself superior to others. Sally joins them, saying that the brunette is known for her desire to get what she wants. Miranda can't believe her luck when she realizes she's standing in front of the best streamer. Sally, in turn, compliments her interlocutor on her appearance. Volter doesn't like all this gossip. He clearly hints to them about his displeasure about it. The man gives Sally a flash drive, telling her that she can make a fortune by posting this video. Volter regrets not taking the streamer with him to another country. He has few points left. After eating deliciously, Sally says that now she will go and edit the video she received. Miranda asks to watch the girl do it. She doesn't mind being watched at all. The streamer says she finds the drone angle quite good. Miranda asks if something like this can really be broadcast, but Sally thinks it's all staged. The secretary doesn't think that Volter hired someone specifically to film this. Sally is amazed at the stupidity of the assistant her boss has hired this time. The girl particularly highlights one of the fragments, believing that the explosive music will come in handy. Miranda thinks that this girl doesn't even know what kind of person Volter is. To add to his coolness, she says she definitely thinks he's handsome. Sally suggests that it's likely that an actor was actually hired to do this. Miranda is amazed by the number of subscribers and fans her boss has, not expecting it. Addressing the invisible fort, Volter declares that he is full of confidence. The man is going to meet this heavenly mentor today. Darwin says he was brought here by 3 solar waves and peals of thunder. In the name of achieving justice, he promises not to weaken his will before evil spirits. He asks Fitzgerald to sprinkle a few drops on the scroll placed before him. After this, the monk continues to read the spell, made more effective by the blood of loved ones. The guy ends his words with the wish that his will be fulfilled immediately. He advises Fitzgerald to follow the crane to find his father's burial place. Volter thinks that he didn't expect this man to be so good at this kind of magic. Fitzgerald notes with annoyance that the paper talisman has sunk to the bottom. Darwin reassures him, suggesting that the grave is right there. A little later, they are informed that they have managed to find what they asked for. Fitzgerald thanks his heavenly mentor for the honor, who responds with politeness. Sensing her master's insecurity, Diana speaks out about it. Volter is more worried about the administrator, and Darwin senses harmful energy. The monk wonders if there is an evil spirit lurking somewhere nearby. Ford explains for Volter, introducing him as the main rich kid and playboy in the city of Ginger. The man adds that this man lives up to his name and is a true villain. Darwin says that his main principles are the fight against evil and the upholding of morality. He considers it his duty to punish the devil, who is walking freely and unlawfully. The monk informs his interlocutor that this man's dragon spirit is very powerful. A moment later, the boy realizes that this is the heavenly dragon of the 8 races, descending from the heavens. And this cannot be a mistake. Volter is not a demon. Fort was wrong. Hearing this, the man breathes a sigh of relief to himself, glad that he did not give himself away. Fitzgerald, meanwhile, cannot believe that the object in front of him is his father. He claims that his father is a man, not some barrel. One of the divers asks the man to take a closer look, having a completely different opinion. Fitzgerald begins to cry and lament the terrible fate that befell his father. Even Volter considers this a huge crime, because the body was brutally desecrated. Red Shield officers ask outsiders to leave the area immediately. Michelle clarifies whether these two really want to help in the investigation of this case. Darwin and Volter answer the girl quickly and synchronously, confirming her words. The monk justifies his desire by saying that it was he who discovered the corpse on Fitzgerald's orders. Volter considers himself obliged to assist the investigation, as he is an upstanding citizen. Diana shares her owner's enthusiasm, seeing this as a great opportunity to earn points. However, Michelle says permission can only be granted for a compelling reason. In response to the man's willful actions, the woman sharply asks what he is allowing himself to do. He says he's worried about Michelle and just wants to let her get some rest. The commander agrees to allow him to participate in the investigation if he does not cause problems. Volter remains pleased, admitting that he was afraid they would slow him down. Darwin talks about the arrogance of his interlocutor, and he doesn't even try to deny it. They get into a squabble, and the system marks the monk as the new proud son of heaven. Darwin asks the vital forces to return to heaven, and calls the spiritual forces to descend to earth. The monk commands the flesh to return to the earth, the blood to the water, the bone to the stone, the hair to the grass. With the help of this talisman, he becomes able to sense a person. Volter is genuinely surprised, realizing that Darwin is truly capable of keeping up with the soul. Fort turns to Mr. Black, saying that he didn't know he could examine corpses, but he considers himself much more competent in this matter and offers his help. Unable to contain himself any longer, Volter tells the man to go to hell. The next moment, a dull sound is heard, accompanied by a metallic clang. Volter screams and curses when he sees the contents of the barrel, and looking into the skull, he admits that this scared him very much. Volter believes that the battle for fortune is a matter of life and death, and cruelty is necessary. The man also thinks that if she is not enough, it would be better to die right away. The other participants in the investigation, standing nearby, are attracted by strange sounds. After which, placing his hand on the skull of the deceased, Volter tells him to return to his roots. A dark haze clouds his eyes, revealing a strange memory behind it. This time, these people manage to make a fortune by speculating on the stock exchange. Willy Dragon confesses to his comrades that he is ready to be with them until the very end. Chili agrees, saying they will have another opportunity to work together, offering an option. Fitz also agrees, but with the proviso that the money must be kept in a safe place. Everyone will have a personal key, which means nothing unintentional should happen. Later, returning to the vault, the companions eagerly await their encounter with wealth. However, once inside, the faces of each of the three reflect primal horror. An argument occurs between friends in which each feels the need to blame the other. They are almost fighting, because this money was earned with blood and sweat. And Volter's last memory is of Fitz being lowered to the bottom of the ocean in a barrel. The man is surprised to realize that his grandfather was involved in this matter. Because of what he saw, his grandfather and Chili Lax seem very suspicious to him. Darwin bids farewell to those present, and Volter reciprocates. Later, they manage to find the Luck family's house at the same time, each expressing bewilderment. Michelle suggests that the two understand each other without words. Volter says that it's not that, but that something is wrong with the Luckies. Wood, appearing out of nowhere, shouts that dogs in Fort are strictly prohibited from entering. The offended man notices that his family is already crossing all boundaries. Volter reassures Wood that Fort is not the initiator of the arrival today. The interlocutor agrees not to feud with the rival out of respect for the Black Heir. Darwin tries to understand how high the authority of Volter is, Fort briefly explains. The monk considers him worthy of being a dragon, but also understands that there is no reason to be afraid. Later, the head of the Lakovs admits that he knew Fitz, but they had not spoken for a long time. Darwin tells us that this man is dead, and also how exactly he was killed. This comes as a surprise to the man, and he asks how this could have happened. And turning to an invisible interlocutor, he asks himself why everything turned out this way. Darwin says that the heavenly eyes showed him that this man was not a murderer. The monk is going to go in search of another family involved in this case. He advises Volter to hurry if he wants to solve this case first. The man agrees with Darwin, but wants to clarify the situation with the head of the Luck family for himself. He offers him his condolences, promising that he will definitely find the killer. He doesn't just touch this man's hand, but fishes out a memory from the depths of his consciousness. Remembering that he seems to have forgotten his key, Chili returns back. He cannot understand why his companions have not yet dispersed and continue their argument. In a fit of rage and overwhelming emotion, William allows his anger to find its outlet. He forbids Fitz from even thinking about what happened, let alone mentioning it. And he agrees. Chili admits that Volter's grandfather beat Fitz and must have killed him. He suggests asking him about it himself if the man wants to find the killer. Leaving this house, Volter refuses to believe that such a thing could have happened. He doesn't believe that his grandfather could commit murder for money, stooping to betraying his friends. After all, this man preserved his friendship more carefully than anyone else. Fort asks the guards to let him through, introducing himself as an acquaintance of Director Dragon. The Cyclone people are not friendly, ordering them to get away immediately. Volter pretends to be surprised that his competitors got here before him, but he chuckles at the fact that they still couldn't get inside. Darwin considers Volter impudent, confident that even he will not be able to get into the mansion. Fort is frightened, asking his partner to stop being rude to this man, knowing the possible consequences. Darwin lets out a startled cry as the guards greet the young gentleman respectfully. The monk asks why his partner didn't stop him, but he reminds him of his warning. Michelle says she has to stop Volter because it concerns his relatives. The man slaps her hand away, saying that it is too late to warn him about something like this. The woman turns to the special forces, telling them to stay outside and promising to notify them of everything. If the theory is confirmed, they will have to break in and arrest the murder suspect. In case of resistance, the commander allows the squad members to open fire. The man is surprised that his old friend is dead, but does not express grief like Chili. Darwin asks his interlocutor if he finds this surprising. William says he immediately realized his friend was dead because he hadn't been in touch with his loved ones for a long time. Due to the lack of surprise, Fort believes that the old man himself was involved in this. Elena angrily asks how he dares to say something like that about her father. She tells him to take his words back immediately, because William has always been a noble man. Fort takes offense, reminding the woman that he was the one who saved her life. Volter says that the interlocutor is completely unable to distinguish between good and bad. If it weren't for Elena, he would have gone to the next world long ago. Fort is frightened by the growling of the guards. William agrees to spare the man this time, since he really saved his daughter. Volter notes with annoyance that he failed to obtain Fort's glasses. Darwin notes that William's illness is caused by karmic obstacles that need to be cleared. If the old man really did kill Fitz, then he needs to confess to it in order to be cured. Otherwise, karma will not be favorable not only to him, but also to his descendants. William tells the monk to leave immediately, angry at the fact that he interrupted someone else's conversation. Darwin is amazed that this man possesses the energy of the green dragon. He recalls that those who possess dragon energy are often overlords. Fort tells his companion that this man rules the city from underground, and he is not surprised. Darwin apologizes for bothering him, and thanks Mr. Dragon for his warm welcome. Stepping aside, the monk calls Michelle to him, saying that he has come to a certain conclusion. The guy believes that William is the killer, repeating words about dirty karma. The commander thinks about this, considering whether to call for reinforcements. Calling his grandson a little rascal, William accuses him of lacking trust in him. Volter says the only thing he needs is for his grandfather to give a definitive answer to the question. The old man thinks for just a few seconds, after which he answers in the affirmative. Volter is trying to figure out what is the best way to act in this situation. The idea that came to mind is to shut the mouths of those who know about what grandfather did forever. William angrily asks what the little bastard is thinking about. He is outraged by the fact of such thoughts. The old man is interested in who taught his grandson such things. He admits that he had a reason why he did not confess to what he had done that day. Fitz didn't want to go on another mission. He wanted to leave the money for his family. William didn't mind, only saying that then they would split the money equally with Chili. Fitz believed that just one share would not be enough for him. It was damned little. He offered to finish off Chili and divide his money between them. William didn't like the proposal, but Fitz continued to stand his ground, citing arguments. He felt that Chili was investing too little, and he was fed up with it. William became angry and asked his former friend to never speak of such things from that moment on. This was the very moment when Chili spied and overheard a dialogue taken out of context. That day, William became convinced that money is an evil that can even separate friends. After this conflict, the trio did not find any money in their safe, and Fitz later disappeared. Volterra wonders why his grandfather didn't tell him about Fitz's attempt to harm Chili. Elena comes to the rescue, saying that this is how William wanted to preserve the Brotherhood. The man thinks about this, because it turns out that everyone was right in their own way. The calm is interrupted by a voice from the side, addressing Mr. William Dragon. Michael says he is suspected of the premeditated murder of Fitz Hawes. Volter intervenes, saying that his grandfather has a great reputation and will not survive the disgrace. The interlocutor says that these are only suspicions, but all the details need to be sorted out. Darwin asks Volter if he can't accept his own loss. He notes that he has not yet announced the results of his own investigation. There is no evidence. Michelle doesn't hesitate, inviting her interlocutor to get started right now. The man begins his speech by talking about the suspiciously rapid rise of the Kos family. By asking where she got such a large sum of money, the man answers his own question. He says Fitz stole the shared money and then reported it as suicide, deflecting suspicion. And even if Chili and William had exposed him, they would not have harmed his family. And it is for this reason that Fitz's son is now the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Darwin says that it all sounds very logical, and the conclusion is simply excellent. Only an investigation relies, first and foremost, on evidence. Michelle agrees with these words, expressing hope for Volter's understanding. He agrees, asking to bring the barrel here and saw it in half in public. There is no arguing with the black air, soon filling everything with the grinding of metal. Those present cannot understand why there was a rope in the barrel. And Volter explains that Fitz filled it with cement 70%, then climbed in. After this, he pulled the lid down with a rope, which helped him complete his suicide. Fort considers this nonsense, since the man could have closed the lid himself anyway. Darwin agrees with him, believing that it all somehow doesn't add up. Volter says it took courage for Fitz to die. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to implement the idea because of fear, so he decided to do it this way. The listeners are amazed by this version, believing that it may well turn out to be reliable. But Darwin does not want to believe that everything was not connected with the barrier of karma. The next thought that his master could have made a mistake scares the hell out of the boy. Fort reassures his friend by reminding him that their world is unpredictable. Volter sees this as a great opportunity, and the timing couldn't be better. The system administrator approaches the proud son of heaven, anticipating a quick victory, and while there is no one to protect Fort, she enthusiastically pumps out of him what she wants. And Darwin doomedly repeats the words that he is good for nothing. Volter gains his 3 heavenly pride points and also the ancient medicine talent. Fort reminds Darwin that it's time for them to go, and he reluctantly agrees. Volter promises his grandfather to get him back on his feet using the acupuncture method he has learned. William thanks his grandson, but admits that he has already lost hope for a cure. The man immediately sets out to prove him wrong by using the 13 needles of the gate. The old man feels the changes immediately, and Fort, who sensed something, stops. He says he envies Volter's acupuncture skills and is impressed by them. Fort, exhaling heavily, adds that he would like to be able to do that too. The man is later asked where he would like to work now, what attracts him. Fort says he has no special skills and is disillusioned with the city. Darwin recalls that many call the interlocutor a skilled doctor, and he is amazed by people. Fort says he has already bought a train ticket and is leaving this evening. He asks his interlocutor not to forget his warning regarding Volter Black. Darwin can't understand why his friend has changed in an instant, becoming wary. William, at the same time, cannot believe his happiness, amazed at the changes in his body. And yet, trying to get up, he plops back down into the chair and then curses. William scolds himself for being happy too soon, thinking that he would never get up again. Volter has a different opinion. He believes that he can now cure absolutely any ailment. The next moment, the man realizes that Darwin's words about the barrier of karma turned out to be true. Volter addresses his grandfather mentally, promising to find a way to get him back on his feet. Elena makes excuses to the man about Fort, and he understands everything perfectly. In support of this, he shares his own vision of the situation. Volter rejoices at having taken almost everything from this man. The blonde admires the way the man conducted the investigation and put everyone in their place. Volter confesses to her that this incident was not actually a suicide. Elena is perplexed. She doesn't want to believe the idea that her adoptive father could be a murderer. Volter ignores this, believing that his grandfather did the right thing. The man asks the blonde to tell him what she thinks about this, if she has any thoughts. He himself thinks about Wood's words once spoken about this woman's betrayal. Volter asks Elena to think everything over carefully, and then share her thoughts with him. Later, Diana asks her master what he plans to do with Darwin. He thinks that there is no need to rush, and that he himself will come to him soon. The administrator becomes curious as to why the monk would suddenly do such a thing. Volter believes that Fitzgerald cannot easily believe his own father's suicide. Besides, Darwin is rather prejudiced against his grandfather. These two should definitely get along. Diana asks Volter to keep his eyes on the road and not be distracted by his dirty thoughts. He says that he wanted the woman to sit down normally, because in this position she was taking a risk. Diana refuses, saying that she wants to sit in this particular position and not in any other. Without thinking twice, the man decides to teach her a lesson, ignoring the question. The administrator doesn't have time to pull herself together and screams in surprise. By saying she's changed her mind, she calls Volter a complete idiot. Miranda tells her boss that she brought the people he wanted to see. The first of them is a great master named Curvy Ambash. The second one is called Perfect by everyone, but his real name is Prospect Sort. The Great Trinity is completed by a woman named Zinnia Schutz. Volter praises his secretary, asking where she dug them all up. Hearing that these people were obtained on the labor market, the man's mood becomes skeptical. The monk says he would not have begged if he had not broken the golden statue of the deity. Volter changes his mind about the man's strength when he notices that the glass has cracked without being touched. The variety is accepted to read Tantra in some unknown language. For some reason, Volter feels like this man is calling upon some kind of deity. The man suddenly finds himself next to Zinnia, noting the talents of her colleagues. He asks her to demonstrate her abilities as well, assuming that she is talented. The woman says many people think she's a thorny rose, warning people to be careful. Volter can't understand why he suddenly feels so dizzy. He liked not only the beauty of this woman, but also the initiative that the man notes. He rushes at his secretary, saying that her man is already here. Volter asks to let him kiss her, and then one more time. Miranda cannot tolerate such behavior towards herself, especially in public. Volter comes to his senses and realizes that he has fallen for this witch's bait. He apologizes to Miranda, justifying himself by saying that Zinnia's illusion turned out to be incredible. The secretary calls the man a fool and says she doesn't want to see him again. Sonia becomes curious as to why Volter did this to his employee in his own home. He retorts, asking if it can be done at home, then why go somewhere else? Volter remembers that Elena gave her word not to harm Sonia, but for some reason she is here again. The girl says that her grandfather asked her to find the man and give him something. Volter is amazed that during all this time the bonds of friendship between the two men have not weakened. The man invites his guests to attend dinner. Sonia expresses a desire to go too. Volter notes that this could be dangerous, but the girl's desire is too strong. She says that there are others besides Elena who want to harm her. With Volter, the girl feels safe, as if behind a stone wall. After thinking for a bit, the man finally agrees, expressing a little irritation. One of the men wonders why he feels a whiff of the afterlife. His interlocutor agrees with him, saying that he too began to experience unreasonable fear. Noticing the movement, Volter deciphers the enemy's plan, informing everyone else. He orders that whoever is about to enter the sanctuary be stopped immediately. Sort is the first to respond to the call, saying that it will not be a problem for him. Covering the opponents, the magical waves, having subsided, present an amazing spectacle. They turn out to be just paper people, which raises a number of questions. A voice comes from the ghostly palanquin, admiring the fact that talent has not disappeared. Darwin is even surprised that there are people who know about his teaching path. Volter asks whether the opponent's stubbornness is not contrary to the monk's nature. Darwin says that he got rid of William purely for the sake of justice. Volter clarifies whether their conversation is really over now. Darwin responds immediately and confidently, expressing agreement. Then Volter gives his subordinates the order to kill this man. Sort steps forward again, using the supreme deity's fire bell, as well as the 9 heavenly guardians and the dragon guarding the city. Volter likes these techniques and expresses admiration, noting the man's talents. Turning to his opponent, Darwin says that he must admit something. There is something in the people he found, and the monk partially recognizes them. But he still believes that this is not enough to stop him. Volter is amazed by the enemy's ability, which is attributed with 7 pride points. To even the score, Sort produces punishing thunder and thunder magic. Darwin intends to blind the opponents who dared to cross his path. Sort apologizes to him, calling him his highest mentor and saying that he didn't recognize him. Volter is furious, thinking that he did not expect this. Jumping up, Curvy asks his master to grant this to him, but he too proves no match for Darwin, who calls his opponents brainless idiots. Zinnia asks Volterra to run, promising to detain the monk for a while. She addresses Darwin respectfully when she asks him to taste her sky serpents. The monk suggests that Zinnia surrender immediately, because she is not fit to hold a candle to him. The rival does not like this attitude and expresses her indignation openly. Darwin blows Zinnia away with just his breath, and she is caught by someone else's hands. Volter asks if she's okay. The woman's reaction is killing him. She addresses him as her dear, offering to have a little more fun. Realizing that there is nowhere to go, Volter admits his defeat, allowing himself to be killed. Darwin says that if a man doesn't interfere with him, he will only kill his old man. By sending a ball lightning at the enemy, the monk tells him to atone for his sins. He is at a loss, asking what is happening when he sees the next picture. Sonia redirects the energy, hitting the unsuspecting monk who screams. Smiling, Volter repeats his own words about good skills, but insufficient experience. Now it becomes clear to Darwin that the evil spirits that have settled in the city are not ordinary people. He points his finger at the person he means, and the next moment he lets out a short cry. Volter notes that his opponent was able to understand who he was dealing with too late. Darwin finds the strength to strike and utter a few words. He begins to read a prayer, saying that their green hills are unchanging. Filling the talisman with energy, the monk ends the tantra with words about the eternal flow of rivers. Finally, Darwin says goodbye to his opponent, saying that they will see each other again. Sonia offers to follow, but Volter says that his time has not yet come. The man thanks the girl for her plan, because otherwise they would have been in a really tough situation. Volter asks her opinion on whether the heavenly mentor is a villain. The girl is sure that it will not be so easy to defeat him if he gains strength. Volter agrees, believing it is wise to act proactively. Receiving reputation points, the man realizes that the broadcast has begun. He asks Sally when she managed to come. She replies that she has always been here. The man tenses, realizing that what happened will not be so easy to explain. Sonia says that inviting the streamer was her idea, and something like that shouldn't be ignored. Volter decides to let things slide, leaving the decision up to his viewers. Fitzgerald asks if the monk is okay, if he has any serious injuries. He orders his servants to call Lily's doctor as soon as possible, and he hurries to carry out the order. The man expresses regret that Darwin was so seriously injured. A female voice carries through the room, asking the man where he got hurt this time. She asks to let her look at his wound, promising to help in no time. The girl considers those who injured the monk to be very cruel people, because the injury is serious. Darwin asks what she put on it. Lily says it's just a regular painkiller. But it has a strange effect. It doesn't reduce swelling at all. Realizing what the fox was up to, Darwin asked her to stop. Half an hour later, Fitzgerald's cry, couched in a question, cuts through the air. He asks if the monk has a conscience, since he treated him with all his heart. Darwin tries to justify himself by saying that he himself did not understand how this happened. Fitzgerald accuses him of knowing that Lily is his wife. The monk becomes confused, sweating, and fears the terrible punishment of heaven. The woman chuckles to herself, glad that she caught this idiot. Her husband also rejoices internally, thinking that without this woman he would have had a hard time. While Darwin curses himself, Fitzgerald mentally revels in his plan for revenge against the four. Running into the room with her boss, Miranda brings very bad news. Something terrible happened at the site of the reconstruction of the old city. She is concerned about the fact that all the reinforcement is very flimsy and does not hold its shape. Seeing everything with his own eyes, Volter no longer treats his secretary's words with mockery. Zinnia asks the young master to let her deal with this problem, but nothing works for her, although usually everything works perfectly. Volter asks the perfect one to tell him what, in his opinion, could be the matter here. He uses the 5 elements, 8 trigrams, the supreme principle of yin and yang. The next moment, Sort realizes that the 5 elements sealing the earth are to blame. Volter hasn't heard of anything like this, so he thinks it's important to ask for clarification. The variety says that this is a field created to seal the energy of the earth. This magical field almost completely isolates the lands, while preserving the energy. Volter suggests that this may be the result of the work of a heavenly mentor. The variety confirms this theory, saying that previously only monks could manage something like this. Volter asks if the other person can destroy his magical field. He misunderstands him, but a little later they find a way out of the situation. Sort says that his teacher can easily destroy the magic field. The men at the entrance say that this is now a landscape park and tickets are required to enter. Sort clarifies whether they really mean to say that he will no longer be able to get home for free. And Sonia is already making arrangements, purchasing tickets for 5 people. A man sobs, asking his teacher how he could leave him. After all, Sorta was only gone for a few days, and he apologizes for his disrespectful attitude towards the teacher. A female voice is heard from behind, addressing the man as a brother. Sheila remarks that he should not allow sadness to settle in his heart. Volter considers this woman to be a goddess who came down from heaven to earth. Sort asks his sister why they now have to pay to climb the mountain. She replies that they were accused of not having documents for this land, and were asked to leave. Sheila adds that she expects this to happen very soon. Rick asks this beauty if she will move out on her own, or if she wants help. Sort says he has lived here since childhood. So who did the opponent claim to be by taking away his legacy? The scumbag says that he doesn't give a damn who lived here and how long. He paid an incredible amount of money for these mountains, so he doesn't want to see anyone here. The monk of Volterra is eager to fight, but his master asks the man to wait a little longer. Rick believes that there is no way to make money from this ruined temple. He plans to demolish it and build a first-class prayer hall in its place. The blow comes from a direction the scumbag least expected. Having calmed down a little, Sheila begins to read the tantras, praising the immeasurable sky. Rick says he's going to make that bitch who dared to hit him really regret it. And this bastard rushes into battle again, accompanying each blow with an accusation of sin against the man. Rick's henchmen are outraged by such willfulness, and are going to kill the woman. And that's when Volter allows his comrades to show themselves in all their glory. Praising and acting in the name of the Lord, Curvy punishes 2 thugs at once. Zinnia is not going to lag behind him, but she shows other techniques. As he runs away, Rick promises not to leave things so easy, letting his offenders get away with everything. Sheila thanks Volter for his help, but he replies that one doesn't get thanks for something like that. Sort introduces young Mr. Black to his sister, saying that he will help. Volter says that he was captivated by the composure and beauty of his interlocutor. Sheila asks to speak to the point, finding such flattery inappropriate. She herself knows that she looks charming, so she does not accept such chatter. The building looks rotten and is in real need of restoration. Volter admits that he initially considered Sort a fraud. Sheila supports the idea that they need to renovate this temple. Volter says that he is asking this beauty to come down from the mountain not to commit evil deeds. A woman is not used to trusting only the words of a stranger, so she checks the energy. What she sees amazes her. This man is literally imbued with an almost physical depravity. Sheila can't believe that such a terrible person is destined to become a hero. Urging herself to remain calm, the woman asks Volter to leave immediately. Her brother tries to convince his sister, saying that the man paid a heavy price. Just one look is enough to make the perfect one fall silent. Volter asks the beauty to simply look at what he is about to show her. Construction could start at any moment and also entail huge losses. Volter tries to turn his interlocutor against Fitzgerald by listing his sins, And all this is made worse by the fact that this man is the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. All these arguments sound convincing, and Sheila agrees to become Volter's companion. She is convinced that this is the field of 5 elements. But the problem is not insoluble. Sword is happy that his sister was able to find a solution to this problem. But to do this you need to find a special child, who is quite difficult to find. Volter reassures the man, saying that he has just one such person in mind. Phoebe bursts into tears, asking why this horrible man tied him up. Volter believes that due to his impudence, such a fate is just the tip of the iceberg. He invites young Luck to come up and talk, but he treats his interlocutor with distrust. The boy gets irritated when interacting with this rubber ladder. Volter dares the boy and manipulates his fear, making himself appear more virtuous. Phoebe says she's not afraid of him, wondering how the man managed to get up. Slipping, the boy curses silently to himself, without making a single sound. Volter catches him, causing Phoebe a wave of deep bewilderment. The boy involuntarily admires the man, and he receives reputation points. Diana says that she admires her master. His intentions become clear to her. Volter answers her mentally, assuring her that the little one will still be very useful to them. With anticipation, Phoebe remembers that he was forbidden to drink this drink. The man allows them to drink and eat whatever they want while they talk. The boy asks the man to make the first move, which involuntarily arouses the interlocutor's admiration. Volter assures Phoebe that he has no intention of poisoning him. The boy remembers that his sister doesn't like ignoramuses, and the man is just like that. He considers Sonia a celestial being, unworthy of ordinary people. Volter asks his interlocutor directly that he likes this girl. The boy gets embarrassed and runs away, saying that he needs to go to the toilet. While doing her wet business from the top of a skyscraper, Phoebe notices something. The incredible sight makes him afraid and question what's going on, and is the power of his urine really that impressive? Cars drive up to the construction site, and disgruntled people climb out of them. Fitzgerald leads reporters, saying that lawlessness is taking place on this site. Volter comes out to meet them, asking who is so brave that he is trying to slander him. The man accuses his opponent of using such underhanded tactics, and asks if, in that case, he would like to vacate his high post. The enemy says he is honest and wants the people to know that he is being deceived. He rushes into battle with the words that the black family will be destroyed in no time. The man is not an experienced fighter, and he pays for his big mouth. Lily is scared, trying to understand what just happened. Reporters bombard the chairman with questions, but he, in pain, tells them to shut up. Volter notes that everyone saw what just happened. They tried to slander him. He asks whether war and business must always be a conspiracy designed to set up a setup. Some of those present are inspired by the man's arguments and change sides. Volter promises to help each of those present open their eyes to the truth. They begin to praise the virtue of the man, having received their share. Soon there is not a single person left who does not take the side of young Master Black. Darwin asks Sheila why she is helping this tyrant. The monk considers him not a man, but a monster, and speaks about this directly to the sister nun. Lily throws herself at the man, asking him to explain what it all means. And while Sheila herself is trying to digest what she saw, Volter turns to Darwin. He says that he is already quite sick of his interlocutor's hypocrisy. Darwin is about to answer, but suddenly chuckles emotionlessly and leaves his interlocutors behind. Volter thanks Sheila, but does not receive a single loyalty point. The woman is impartial. The system, as if in mockery, gives the user the task of getting this arrogant nun. Diana asks the man how the mission was this time, whether he enjoyed it. She is surprised that there is a beauty that even Volter cannot cope with. Sheila, having sensed the blonde's presence, asks where this demon is. Volter asks what she means, and the nun expresses suspicions about evil spirits. Diana decides to lie low for a while until the woman calms down, and as soon as she goes into the suspension, Sheila reaches out to her. The nun asks Volter where his pendant is from and if she can see it. Intercepting the woman's hand, the man responds positively, but with reservations. He says that no one except his future wife can touch this relic. The woman calls Volter a pervert, and he giggles innocently. After this, he says that he needs his interlocutor's help, and they cannot sit idle. The nun says there is some common sense in these words, but still asks the man to turn around. He, realizing that he is powerless, fulfills the request, and the woman touches her artifact. To calm down, Volter asks his interlocutor what this thing that looks like an amulet is. Sheila confirms that there are similarities, but it's not that simple. Volter invites the nun to stay with him, as he knows that she has not found a hotel. The nun does not refuse. Considering it stupid, the man's reputation increases by 5 million. Sally says goodbye to her subscribers until next time, until the next cool story. They thank the girl for the interesting broadcast, saying that they were again pleased with it. A flash from the building opposite attracts more than just the streamer's attention. Spectators begin to actively discuss the sniper, initially mistaking the rifle for a camera. Sally is frightened, realizing that this man is going to kill her boss. The girl hastily calls him, asking the man to be careful. He tries to understand what is going on, and having heard about the killer, he is going to look at him. He rolls down the window, saying it's too thick and you can't see anything, and Sally goes hysterical. The girl asks the boss to close the window immediately, cursing herself for what is happening. The sniper mentally addresses his target, saying that his uncle asked him to do this. The man can't believe his luck. The target is in plain sight. The window is down. The trigger is pulled. Only by some incredible miracle, instead of hitting Volter, it ricochets. The sniper doesn't even have time to finish the sentence that reflects his bewilderment. Some of the viewers of the broadcast are amazed by the impeccable performance of these actors. Volter mentally thanks Sheila for placing the protective amulet inside him. Fitzgerald asks the Heavenly Lord to save his nephew. Since he had no children, the man was going to leave everything to this guy. Darkin says he cannot interfere, as this is the result of the vengeance already taken. Lily steps in, begging the man to save this poor child for her sake. Gritting his teeth, the monk mutters that he is in debt. Hanging an amulet on the dead youth's head, he begins to recite the forbidden spell. The boy jumps up screaming that something is fishy here, as the bullet ricocheted off the empty space,